Tonight, a wave of terror and murder in one American town.
And nearly all of the killings have one very unexpected thing in common: a supposed good friend. 2020 starts right now.
The first body came out after midnight, but it was only the first.
When the murder started, for the most part, they were just another murder.
Shauna Hawk, Betty Jean Balcom, Deborah Slaughter.
Each one seen individually.
Here's another homicide.
2 murders in 2 days.
Who is African American.
Caroline Love, Michelle Stinson.
Another victim to roll out.
A lot of women are in fear.
I just talked to her and now she's dead.
The patterns of women being killed didn't really add up.
Brandy Henderson and 9 others.
These 10 murders.
The murder count possibly totaling 13.
Why didn't police see it sooner?
All victims of an unknown suspect.
Whoever did this was a ghost.
Danger disguised as a friend, and his victims never saw him coming.
One, why did it take so long to see a pattern? We feel bad that we did not know that sooner.
But it wasn't just police. It was those of us in the media and I think the community.
Man, it was right there.
This young mother was killed in the same manner. All had been strangled.
He looked at me and he said, "We think we have a serial killer."
You know, if you don't get him off the streets fast, he could do it again.
I was not going to stop until I found out who did this.
If we'd only had the little pieces.
Shauna Hawk.
Had we only known what we know now.
She was one of his victims too.
So this was Shauna's first prom. Oh man. I remember the day she found the dress. Purple was her favorite color.
Shauna Hawk was a very beautiful young woman. She went to Central Piedmont Community College.
All I can tell you about Shauna is that incredible human being.
Raised by her mother, single mom at the time. She was industrious, ambitious, worked. She wanted to make something out of herself.
She was the apple of her mother's eye.
Shauna was born on December 2nd, and I was all of 18 years old. I remember when Shauna was crying, and the minute they laid her on my chest, our eyes locked, and she just calmed right down.
She was younger than me, but, you know, bossy. That's the right word for Shauna. She was bossy. Every time.
She's worried about the long hours and whether she's going to be able to keep up with her schoolwork. She actually talks with the Taco Bell manager, a guy named Henry Wallace.
I went and met him once, and he said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Sumter. I've hired your daughter, and I think she's going to be great on our team."
That year, February 19th, was on a Friday.
Dee Sumter refers to that day as Horrible Friday. But it started out as just any other day at their home on Elon Street.
She said, "Well, I'm gone. I love you." And I said, "I love you more." And then she stuck her head back in the door and she said, "Mom, I love you." And I said, "Baby, I love you more." And then she took off.
That afternoon, Dee gets a call at work.
Her godson's mother called and said, "Miss Dee, have you heard from Shauna?" And I said, "No." She said, "Miss Dee, I'm not trying to say anything, but something's wrong. I don't know what, but something's not right."
She noticed some unusual things around the house when she came home. Her daughter's car was not there. That wasn't unusual, but what was unusual is it was a cold day in February, and Shauna's purse was in the house and her winter coat was in the house.
She's wondering, well, what's going on? Where is she?
I called her boyfriend and I said, "Daryl, get over to my house, please, now." And he's just shaking his head. He said, "This is baffling." I said, "More than baffling. Something is definitely wrong."
And they decided to call the police and report her as missing. As they were waiting for the police to respond, Daryl decided to go looking through the house and just check.
I hear his footsteps. He walks into the bathroom.
He pulled back the shower curtain and found Shauna in the bathtub and a small amount of water, fully clothed, and she was dead.
The next sound I heard was him blood-curdling scream. He runs back down the hall. Miss Dee, dial 911. She's in the bathtub. Last thing I remember seeing them push her out on a gurney doing CPR.
It was obviously too late at that point.
Subsequently, we find out that she was raped and then strangled inside of her bathtub.
And that was kind of unusual for us at the time. We did not have a lot of strangulations during that time with the homicide investigations.
Strangulation is rare. It's more commonly seen in domestic cases or cases where people have a relationship.
Murder? I couldn't hardly even spell the word murder before Shauna was murdered.
We didn't have any damage to the doors. We didn't have any damage to the windows. So we believe that she allowed the assailant to come inside the residence.
The killer was also meticulous in terms of going through the house, making sure he wiped down anything that he may have touched. So they had no DNA, they had no fingerprints. In effect, whoever did this was a ghost.
Who would want to kill this beautiful, innocent, sweet, kind, loving person? My best friend, my daughter.
We didn't find anything significant that would draw us to point to any particular suspect at the time.
She couldn't have had an enemy. She wasn't that kind of person.
So after she was found murdered at her home, the police tried to locate her car. It was not discovered for weeks, and when it was discovered, it was found in a parking lot at Central Piedmont Community College.
The front seat was pushed back, and Shauna was short. So I think the only thing they took away from that is that it had to be somebody that was taller than Shauna.
In the course of their investigation, police actually are missing something rather important. 8 months earlier, a young woman by the name of Caroline Love disappeared. And it turns out that Caroline and Shauna were friends.
Something ain't right. They need to go back and look at what happened to Caroline, because Caroline's missing and now here Shauna is dead.
What's coming is a incredibly rude awakening.
There's some decomposition on the body.
For the Charlotte Police Department.
What soon followed was a wave of death and grief unlike anything this town has ever seen.
The best way to describe Charlotte in the early 90s would be is that it was growing extremely fast.
Charlotte was at the beginning of its banking boom.
Johnson from 20.
After the Charlotte Hornets got here, I think that's when everyone started using the term world-class city. The skyline seemed like it changed every 3 to 4 months.
Charlotte was booming. A lot of steel and glass and a lot of looking upward. Maybe not enough looking down.
Police are pointing out the drug dealers.
At what was happening on the ground.
Drugs are a problem in every large city in America.
In the neighborhoods and in communities.
Police say that this is what they call a crack house.
We were headed towards one of our highest murder rates in the city's history.
On the legitimate side, banking was the growth industry. On the criminal side, drugs was the growth industry.
Gun was found behind the dresser along with the crack bag.
It was a very, very violent period of time.
Drugs and their debris were...
In fact, I would say it was the most violent period in Charlotte's history.
Members of the violent Mustang gang were arrested.
In the 90s, we were not equipped to handle the murder rate. We had maybe 8 homicide detectives, but only 6 were actively working.
It was almost like they were having to work homicides like car accidents.
It's the 90s in Charlotte, North Carolina. Skyscrapers are going up, but at the same time, a series of crimes are unfolding. 20-year-old Shauna Hawk is found strangled in her bathtub, and her friend and co-worker, Caroline Love, has vanished.
Caroline Love went missing in June of 1992.
Caroline lived in East Charlotte. I lived in West Charlotte, and we all worked together at Bojangles.
The Love sisters, Kathy and Caroline, worked at Bojangles with Henry Wallace, who was Shauna Hawk's boss at Taco Bell.
She was a really fun person. She always had like a really cute boyfriend.
she didn't show up for work.
This don't sound like her, you know? Something's definitely wrong.
I know my mom, I remember her calling like everybody. She called everybody in our family, like, have you seen her? Is she over here?
It was like she just disappeared off the face of the earth.
She was living with this young lady by the name of Sadie McKnight. Sadie McKnight and her boyfriend, Henry Wallace, helped file the report for the missing person of Carolina Love.
Kathy, Henry, and Sadie are the ones who went to the police station to file the police report.
Shauna had the news on and she said, Mommy, Caroline is missing. Something is wrong. It's not like her just not to come to work and not call me or call work or say something.
When Shauna Hawk is murdered, police don't immediately tie that to the disappearance of Caroline Love, but there is a connection.
Before Taco Bell, Shauna had worked at Bojangles with Caroline.
She and Shauna were close friends. They were in high school together. They worked together. They were buddies. They hung out together.
My mom was on it. She was like, there's no way that within a year that Carol's missing, and then now one of her good friends is dead.
They always remained hopeful that she would be found alive and okay.
I thought so many times that she was gonna come back. So I remember even when searching for her, I had these two little dresses, and I wore them because I wanted to look nice, you know. I wanted to look nice in case she showed up.
4 months after Shauna Hawk was murdered, another young lady, Audrey Spain, turns up murdered as well.
I think this is one of my favorites.
Audrey was a free spirit. She lived life on her terms.
Spirited, adventurous, positive, a hard worker.
Audrey Spain was another young, attractive black female who also worked at Taco Bell.
I do remember receiving a call from Audrey's manager telling me that she had missed going to work that particular day and that he was concerned.
So they actually sent the manager or the maintenance people to her apartment complex, and when they entered the apartment complex, entered her apartment, they found her deceased on the bed.
I don't know how much information they actually gave us at that time. I just remembered that she had been murdered, she had been strangled, there was a rape also.
It was devastating. It's just not something that you ever expect to have to deal with. Audrey was my younger sister, and we grew up together, so it was very difficult.
What did I miss? How did this happen? And you're totally blindsided. Yeah, totally.
The interesting thing about that crime scene was that the thermostat it was the summer months, had been turned way down.
The crime scene techs, when they got there, were shivering.
That's because the air conditioning had been cranked to slow down the decomposition process.
Apparently, her body had been there for at least 2 days.
In the first 6 months of 1993, Shauna Hawk and Audrey Spain have been strangled to death.
Before Shauna was murdered, a friend of hers, Caroline Love, had vanished. Even so, the detectives have no clue that these cases are connected.
I just don't feel like they knew. Maybe she was random, maybe not.
These cases never came together because there were other detectives working it and not just one. And so we had very little information to go on at the time to try to link it with any of the other homicides.
We just knew that we had another young black woman who is found murdered.
We have a possible serial killer working in the shadows. But do we know that? We have no idea.
In the months ahead, more Charlotte women will fall victim to strangulation and murder. But the killer will make a mistake, giving police a glimpse as to who he is. 1993 is the year of living dangerously in Charlotte.
Caroline Love, Shauna Hawk, Audrey Spain.
Peak murder rates, and somebody is killing young black women.
It was earlier this afternoon when a family friend found the body of the woman.
It was September of '93. We were called out to a home where a woman's body had been found.
When police got to this apartment off of Marvin Road, they found two very frightened children.
Michelle, yeah, I was there. Vividly remember Michelle Stinson. Here's a young woman who had been murdered inside of her own home with her children present.
Michelle Stinson was killed in front of her two children.
A friend drops by to visit Michelle.
He looked in the windows and saw one of her little boys playing and, was banging on the window.
Where's your mommy? Where is she? And they tell him, well, mommy's asleep on the floor.
And he was getting ready to leave when the little boy opened the door and he went in.
He finds her dead on the kitchen floor.
There were signs of strangulation, but her cause of death was 4 stab wounds.
As Michelle Stinson's bloodied body was taken away, those who knew her said goodbye with tears and tried to make sense of it all.
My goodness, what person, what monster could take the life of a mother in front of their children?
Police say that there is no sign of forced entry, and that indicates that perhaps Michelle knew her killer and invited him in. Despite that, they failed to find any viable leads or suspects.
Michelle Stinson's case, like Shauna Hawk and Audrey Spain, and the still missing Caroline Love, goes unsolved.
You can't even stay at home and be safe anymore. For some unknown reason, they just couldn't connect the dots.
Dee Sumter's a remarkable woman. Yes, her heart broke, but her will didn't.
Dee Sumter went on a public campaign to call attention to her daughter's death.
It's better knowing.
And she turned what was the worst possible situation into something extremely positive for this community when she, along with Shauna's godmother, Judy Williams, started an organization called Mothers of Murdered Offspring, which is still here.
I just knew I had a daughter who was murdered and it wasn't being investigated properly. I was appalled by that, angered by it, and I was not going to stop until I found out who did this.
They felt that the police department or the city didn't care enough because they were young black women.
Dee Sumter, whose daughter Shauna was on that list of victims, still wonders what if some of the faces were white instead.
Every time another youngster was murdered, there was Dee calling the press, going after the police, saying, "What are you going to do to help us?"
She was turning up the heat on the police.
They particularly attacked the police each and every day about what we were doing and what we were not doing, because they thought that we should be doing more, and we were telling them that we couldn't do any more than what we had. We were overworked and we were understaffed, but we were doing the best that we could.
Dear killer, I am the mother of Shauna Denise Hawk.
She wrote a letter to the editor calling out the person who took her daughter's life.
Something in me said he's got to have some type of a heart. Might be a dark heart, but it's a heart. Please, please, please come forward and turn yourself into the authorities so justice can be served and so you can get the help you need and so forgiveness can be given. For without this, you are eternally doomed. Can I have a moment, please?
Dee Sumter's letter appears in the Charlotte Observer. And in the same day's paper, a brief article, a woman in Charlotte found dead in her apartment. Here we go again, another victim.
In the mornings when Vanessa Mack had to go to work, her babysitter would come here to her house to pick up her 4-month-old daughter.
A young lady by the name of Vanessa Little Mack was murdered in her home.
I said, Vanessa, I said, get up, you know, like that. And then she didn't move and she didn't say anything. So I turned the bedroom light on. And I said, oh God.
Vanessa Mack was killed in February of 1994, almost to the day that Shauna Hawk had been killed a year earlier.
Blood was on her face and a towel was around her neck.
Her baby daughter, just yards away, was okay. Police believe the infant was in the home when her mother was killed.
Vanessa Mack was a hospital worker.
Just an honest, hardworking young lady doing the best that she can to provide for her family.
I don't know why they would have did it, because she was a good girl. She didn't bother nobody.
Vanessa Little Mack's cause of death was once again ligature strangulation.
There is a link to previous killings, but police don't seem to notice it at the time.
Vanessa Mack had a sister who worked at Taco Bell. So again, the correlation of another person working with somebody at a Taco Bell.
We started looking for financial card records and discovered that a bank card was missing from the scene.
They got her banking history and found that her teller card had been used, unsuccessfully.
In her final moments, Vanessa Mack tricks her killer, giving him the wrong PIN to her ATM card.
She had made it up. It wasn't the correct password, so that's why he couldn't get into her account. She still fought back. She didn't give him everything he wanted.
There are security cameras on the ATM.
So we looked at the security camera footage and we could possibly say that it was a male of dark skin complexion.
But it wasn't a great picture. There wasn't a lot to go on.
The only thing you could see in the photograph was his ear.
And we did see an earring in the figure of a cross at that time.
A hoop cross earring. Only thing the photograph showed.
But that killer wearing a gold cross earring is about to make another mistake, revealing his identity.
Like a beast, sitting, waiting for a prey, just waiting to go and hurt someone.
It's March 1994 in the city of Charlotte, and someone has gotten away with murdering 4 women in a year's time.
My goddaughter was one of the victims. Shauna Hawk. She was one of his victims too.
Shauna Hawk found strangled in her home last February. And then 2 weeks ago, Vanessa Little Mack also strangled.
All black women in their 20s, all strangled to death in their own home.
Something's not right here, you know? Something is not right.
I mean, that's one question I want to have for the police department. Why hadn't they shown a real interest? And I really felt that we've been neglected.
All being investigated as seemingly unconnected. That is about to change in one single deadly day at the same apartment complex.
The Lake Apartments, and I would refer to them as the infamous Lake Apartments, because if there is any location in this town that's affiliated with these cases, that's the location.
The next victim is on March 9th of 94. 18-year-old Brandy Henderson, a young mom.
She was funny, she loved to joke around, she sang off key, but she thought that she could sing and we just let her do it.
Brandy lives with her boyfriend Lamar Woods and their 10-month-old son, Tyrese.
Brandy told me that when she had Tyrese, that she felt like her life was complete. She felt like she had made a masterpiece.
One night in March, Brandy calls her cousin George, asking him to come over and hang out.
She was like, well, I've got some Chinese food that I ordered and from takeout. Why don't you just come over? Come on over. Come see me. And I said, well, it's already 8 o'clock. I'm tired. I've been working all day. I got to get up early tomorrow. And she said, oh, come on.
They're talking on the phone. Then there's a knock on the door.
The phone call was interrupted, and she said someone was at the door.
And I heard her in the background saying, just make sure you lock the door behind you. I didn't worry about who was there because she said lock the door behind you, so she trusted them.
Late that night, Brandy's boyfriend comes home from work.
The first thing he notices that sort of catches his eye is that kind of like the lights are off, which is a little bit unusual because he knows Brandy is home.
He turns on the light. The apartment's been trashed.
His stereo is missing. The place has been robbed.
So he starts checking around and he finds his kid and notices the kid is not really breathing normally. So then he's like, what's going on here?
Someone has tied a pair of shorts around 10-month-old Tyrese's neck. This child is struggling to breathe.
He runs to help him. He unties the things around his neck and then finds Brandy.
Brandy was in the bedroom, lying on the bed with a ligature around her neck.
You're watching as this woman's body is being carried downstairs, knowing her child has been injured, possibly gravely, and luckily he survived.
The next morning, as soon as I turned the news on,
we don't have a significant break anywhere in the case. We're still hoping that somebody may come forward with some information.
They had a stretcher rolling across the sidewalk in front of her apartment. And I knew at that time that it was real, and I just lost it because I just could not comprehend that I just talked to her and now she's dead.
The killer stole not only the stereo, but a Pringles can of coins that Brandy had been saving up.
However, this suspect got in there. Apparently he was let in or had access to get in on his own.
Contact 60130 on tag 2.
Right at this moment, detectives get an urgent radio call. They're needed back at the Lake Apartments.
Another woman is found strangled.
I could not believe that the next day we're back at the same apartment complex where another woman is found dead in her apartment. And this woman is Betty Jean Baucom. She's 24 years old. She has a 3-year-old daughter.
Betty Baucom, who lived somewhere in those same apartments, worked at Bojangles.
Betty never did anything wrong to anybody. Sean was trying to help people, and I mean, it just really hit us hard here.
The stuff hit the fan. It was crazy town, man. Everybody was over there. It seemed like there was 10,000 police cops over there.
I was interviewing people who were racing into the apartment complex.
We came here to make sure that my girlfriend was safe because her husband is at work and her and her daughter is home alone.
Did this concern you when you heard this?
Yes, it did. I mean, it's unbelievable.
The fear that it stoked was just insane.
I grew up in New York and I thought this was going to be like, you know, a safe haven out here. And apparently there is no safe haven anymore.
So now we have a major problem. Now we have 2 young ladies in the same apartment complex have been found murdered, and there's a lot of conversation.
I was in court and saw one of the homicide detectives, and I asked him, you know, what's going on? And that was the first I heard. He looked at me and he said, we think we have a serial killer.
Police worry this could be a serial strangler.
Betty Jean Baucom's car has been stolen.
We're looking for a vehicle now of the latest victim, and we believe the suspect has probably fled it.
So during this time, you know, we have an APB out for Betty Baucom's car, and we're looking citywide for the car.
Police found the car in this parking lot. Actually, it's right across the street from the apartment complex where the women were found murdered.
On the floor of Betty's car is a Pringles can stolen from Brandy Henderson.
So that connects the 2 murders at the Lake Apartments. Whoever killed Betty and stole her car must have also killed Brandy and stolen her coins.
Tonight, police aren't taking any chances at all. They're setting up perimeters all around the Lake Apartments.
Investigators say they need more information quickly.
You know, if you don't get him off the streets fast, he could do it again.
Use caution, be careful, and think before you open the door.
The killer is out there somewhere, and they feel certain if given the chance, he could strike again.
Word tonight of a serial killer in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the shock of recognition that comes when a community realizes there's been a killer in its midst.
So now we have a major problem. Now we have two young ladies in the same apartment complex have been found murdered. The media has now been involved.
Be careful letting them into your house. If there's some doubt at all, you feel nervous with the person that may be coming to your door, don't hesitate, call 911.
Everybody's in uproar, everybody in a panic.
The city was on edge, you know, just fear all over the whole city.
It was scary. It was scary. I can remember calling some friends that I know on that side of town and say, hey, be careful.
Investigators say they need more information quickly. Young women were murdered in the same apartment complex, and their killer is still out there somewhere.
Minutes before Brandy Henderson was murdered at the Lake Apartments, she had been on the phone with her cousin George Burrell.
She said, hold on, somebody's at the door. And I heard her in the background saying, just make sure you lock the door behind you.
The day after the murder, George says he stops over at a neighbor's apartment.
As I walked in, to my left sat Henry Wallace, watching the TV. I had seen Henry Wallace at Brandy and her boyfriend's house. I had met him one time.
By daylight, detectives were back at the Lake Apartments with another murder on their hands.
The news came on. So we started watching the news, and it was about Brandy's murder.
Investigators say whoever killed these women was cold-bloodedly calm, spending a lot of time in each of their apartments.
I felt this on my shoulder. I felt a pat, like, you know, I'm so sorry. And he was looking at the TV, watching Gurney go across the sidewalk with her body, and his eyes just glow. He was just glowing, like, just, you know, like amazed, like he was excited. And I could just see that in his eyes, like he was just fixed on the TV.
Brandy Henderson's 10-month-old baby was also attacked and left for dead.
And he's like, I'm so sorry, what happened to your cousin? And Henry said, she was always there with her baby by herself. When somebody come in, she would say, lock the door behind them. I had that flashback to when I was speaking to her, and she said, just make sure you lock the door behind you. And I knew at that moment that it was him. I said, oh my word, he killed her.
George says he immediately told a police officer about his suspicion, but he says the officer blew him off.
By then, they knew that they had a serial killer on their hands, and they needed to find him quickly, but they didn't find him quickly enough.
As they're processing all of this with Betty Jean and Brandy Henderson being murdered at the Lakes Apartments, one more person is found murdered about a mile away, and her name is Deborah Ann Slaughter.
She loved to laugh. She had a very contagious laugh. She also had a beautiful voice. She and I both grew up singing in church together. I remember Boys II Men came on the radio singing The End of the Road. I just remember us going, you know, to the end of the road, and I can't let go. That was the last time we sung together.
Deborah Slaughter lived in the Glen Hollow apartments, which were the same apartments that Audrey Spain lived in.
Henry Wallace had also lived at Glen Hollow at one time, and Deborah worked at the Bojangles, same place where Henry Wallace worked.
And my mother did give us warnings. Her exact words is, you know, there's a serial killer in Charlotte and I need y'all to be careful. And I would say to Deborah all the time, you know, be careful. I always told her to be careful. Deborah was a tough person and she just wasn't scared of anything.
It was this last Thursday the bodies of Brandy Henderson and Betty Jean Balcom were discovered. 2 days later, Deborah Slaughter was found just a mile away.
At some point after letting this man into her home, Deborah Slaughter comes to a horrifying realization.
Once his attack was on, Deborah Slaughter made the connection between the recent murders. At that point, she said, "You're him." So Deborah did fight because Deborah knew that she was going to die.
Deborah Slaughter's case was much more violent than any of the other victims, and you could tell that there was a big struggle inside the home. She fought for her life.
Lovey Slaughter sees it every time she closes her eyes, her daughter's body lying on the dining room floor of her apartment.
When she knocked on the door just kind of pushed open, and she walked in.
And when I opened the door and saw her laid on that floor,
next thing I know, I look up and I see two firefighters bringing my mother down the stairs, and she's crying, and the first thing she said is, "Deborah's gone." She said she's gone.
You've got, oh, this person was strangled here, this person was strangled here, this person was strangled here. Huh.
Tonight, police aren't taking any chances at all.
Looking back,
the killer is out there somewhere.
For myself, as a reporter, I keep thinking, why didn't we start putting two and two together? Then you have the police who are trained to do these kind of things. Why didn't they do it?
Look closely. Police say this is the face of a serial killer.
Who is this man who has confessed to the murders?
Once I touched him, so it was out of my control. It was out of my hands. So I couldn't stop it. There was no way I could stop it.
We have a possible serial killer working in the shadows.
And somebody is killing young black women. All black women in their 20s, all strangled to death in their own home.
Is some kind of a bold demon here, one like never before.
He's hiding in plain sight, and he's doing it very cleverly. He fools everybody.
He portrayed himself as the big brother, as the good friend.
And I remember him telling me, it's gonna be okay, she's gonna come back.
He hugged me. He knew he had killed her.
So he kind of walked into their life knowing that at some point he's gonna take their lives.
I didn't want to, but something or somebody was taking over my body.
He writes a name, then a second name, then a third name, but he keeps going.
He was talking about killing women like you're in some sort of boring book club.
The general tone in Charlotte was, why didn't you guys figure this out earlier?
Saying that they didn't prioritize these murders because the victims were black women.
You guys blew it. How could you miss this?
It was this last Thursday the bodies of Brandy Henderson and Betty Jean Balcom were discovered. 2 days later, Deborah Slaughter was found just a mile away.
Investigators have now contacted the FBI, trying to set up a profile of the killer.
Use caution, be careful, and think before you open the door.
We don't have a significant break anywhere in the case. We're still hoping that somebody may come forward with some information.
Charlotte police are desperate to find this killer. They do get something to work with from Brandy Henderson's boyfriend, Lamar.
We asked him who would Brandy allow into the home without any problem. And he said Henry Wallace.
Once the detective on Brandy Henderson's case got the names of who she would have let into the apartment, he went to see if any of them had any criminal history. Henry Wallace did. He had a misdemeanor larceny charge, and there was a mugshot of Henry Wallace.
That's when Detective James Stansberry, who's been investigating the Vanessa Mack case, walks into the room.
He comes in and he sees the photograph of Henry Wallace. In that mugshot, Henry Wallace is wearing a hoop cross earring in his ear.
I looked at the photograph and something hit me.
The detective remembers that from the ATM on Vanessa Mack's case.
I saw the earring with the cross.
And that's similar to the same earring that we saw on the picture of Henry Wallace's arrest photo.
I see this and say, we may have something here.
Investigators hope this car stolen from Balcom spawns new leads.
Betty Jean's car is found across the street from the crime scene, Nissan Pulsar, and that was the biggest break that they've had to date, which was inevitably what led them to their suspect.
They hit a jackpot near the trunk area of that car where they found a palm print. That palm print matched someone who was already in the system.
That palm print came back to Henry Louis Wallace.
So now we're going to look for the person, Henry Louis Wallace.
March 12, 1994, around 2 in the afternoon, Deborah Slaughter's body is found. 3 hours later, police locate Henry Wallace and place him under arrest.
And when the cops came in, he had bathroom door shut. And my bathroom door shut.
Hiding in there?
Hiding in there.
Initially, he is not giving up the goods.
The police sent in literally teams of detectives trying to get him to talk. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. They sent in 2 more. I don't know what you're talking about. Enter Detective Tony Rice.
Tony Rice goes into the room and started to talk to Henry.
And he said, Henry, you mind if we just say a little prayer together? And he actually held Henry's hand and said a prayer.
After the prayer, then Tony said, well, now, can you tell me about what happened?
Henry said, give me a piece of paper. And he started writing down all the names of the women.
He writes a name, then a second name, then a third name, and these are victims that police had already suspected him of murdering. But Henry Wallace keeps going. Another name, another name, another name. A total of 10 victims. Charlotte police are stunned.
That was the first the police knew of the depth of how many people he had killed.
Henry, if you would, go ahead and just talk up for me and state your full name.
Henry Louis Wallace.
The police decided to record his confessions.
Shauna Hawk, I really didn't have any intentions of doing what I did to Shauna. I stopped by to see Shauna one day, and she gave me a hug. And when she gave me a hug, I had her real close, and I said, I want you to have sex with me. She said, you're joking, right? I said, no, I'm not. It's not a joke.
He gave a full confession. That's very unusual. Many of them deny it to their dying day, so to speak. But Henry Wallace didn't.
I told her to get dressed. I took her to the bathroom. That's where I maneuvered the chokehold on her. And so she passed out, and I filled the bathtub with water and placed her in it.
Coldest thing I ever heard in my life. He was talking about killing women like you're in some sort of boring book club.
Henry Wallace admits he raped each of his victims before killing them, and usually robbed them.
But what's really unusual is that Henry Wallace knew his victims, and they knew him.
That's what's different. He knew them, and he had to know them. He couldn't kill a stranger, he said.
I would always hear the voices of the people that I killed. I would always see them. I would always see a shadow of them. I would always hear their voices. I would always hear the, laughter from them.
Shauna Hawk's mother, Dee Sumter, says that Henry Wallace actually showed up at Shauna's wake.
I'm thinking, this is some kind of a bold demon here, one like never before. Had the literal gall to show up at a service for someone that he knew he personally killed.
The thing that makes my blood run cold and just send shock shivers up and down my spine is the fact that I saw him after Shauna was murdered, and he expressed his condolences, and he hugged me, told me how sorry he was.
And he knew he had killed her.
I wanted to tell her so bad, Dee, I killed your daughter. But I was so scared. I was so scared, and I couldn't do it.
I mean, to be hugged by your child's murderer, showing up and sending his sympathies, that is some cold, calculated stuff going on right there.
We begin to get a bit of a portrait of Henry Wallace emerging from the photos shown in court.
He had many strengths in growing up. People liked him, and he was social.
Henry was a great person, very nice guy, got along well with everyone.
Yearbook photos and schoolmates who spent time with him.
But he also had some obviously very lethal problems.
He would have had every opportunity in the world with any of us. He could have easily gotten any of us, but he didn't.
Was there satisfaction in that for you? I didn't want to, but something or somebody was taking over my body, and I couldn't stop, even when I tried to stop.
Police say this is the face of a serial killer, a man who choked the life out of neighbors and co-workers. His name is Henry Louis Wallace.
Henry Wallace was born and raised in Barnwell, South Carolina, a small town about 3 hours south of Charlotte.
Before he became a serial killer, Henry Wallace was a fast food manager who had served in the Navy, had been married, and then divorced.
The news of his arrest shocked his hometown.
I still have a hard time believing now that it was
Me too.
our Henry.
Former classmates and the high school yearbook seemed to portray a completely different image than that of a cold-blooded killer.
Henry was a great person, very nice guy.
He was a good guy. He was fun. He had the biggest smile, the biggest personality, always happy. You know, he was the first male cheerleader we ever had. I would have never guessed in a million years that Henry had any kind of issues where he would do what he's done. Never in a million years.
He would be the person who's responsible for more deaths in Mecklenburg, Charlotte, Mecklenburg than any other person that we've came in contact with.
I think the community was truly stunned. Those kinds of cases didn't happen here. Charlotte wasn't the kind of place where we would have a serial killer.
After Henry confessed to all of the murders that we believe he did in North Carolina, we began to formulate how are we going to tell the public.
Information indicates that this person was responsible for the murder of 10 women in Charlotte.
When we made the announcement, the city ate us alive. The media ate us alive.
I do remember the police coming out and saying, we have a serial killer, but you know what? Our officers did a great job.
The investigators worked tremendously hard and did an excellent job on the investigation of all of these 10 cases. We're sorry that we did not get him identified earlier. Had we done that, then we maybe could have saved the lives of some of these women.
The general tone in Charlotte was, why didn't you guys figure this out earlier?
The community became outraged.
The police was well aware of this a long time ago.
There were some in the community who criticized the Charlotte police, saying that they didn't prioritize these murders because the victims were black women.
I sat and just cried in my heart and outside because I wanted that same energy and effort to be extended to my child.
There was not a level of caring. This is where the racial disparity comes in.
We covered Dee, we covered her press conferences. One of the things that she made everyone think about and talk about was if these had been white women who were dying in South Charlotte, each killing would have been a huge story.
Race is always a factor in criminal investigations. Until America sees that it is not a factor or we have to mention it, do an interview, race is always going to be a factor.
All these cases were professionally and competently handled. There was nothing given short shrift.
One of the other stunning aspects of this case was how well Henry Wallace knew most of his victims.
And it seems that fast food restaurants are the common thread that bind Wallace to most of his alleged victims.
Everything was right here all along. It's been right here. And they've done everything except look right here.
Obvious connections. There's that word again, connecting the dots. In my humble opinion, blatantly ignored.
It was like, you guys blew it. How could you miss this?
It's not that we missed this, it's just that we were overwhelmed with the cases.
During that 2-year period that he was killing people, there were approximately 300 people murdered.
All of those cases were on desks of 6 homicide detectives in the 90s. We didn't have the technology. We definitely didn't have the manpower, and we definitely didn't have the resources.
When Henry Wallace confessed to police, he listed names of people that investigators didn't even know had been murdered.
Well, there is one name in particular on that list that I am certain wasn't on their radar at all, and that is Valencia Jumper.
Investigators say Valencia Jumper died in her 3rd floor apartment. They say this also appears to be the unit where the fire started.
Valencia Jumper came to Charlotte. She was a student at Johnson C. Smith University.
Henry Wallace knew Valencia's sister. That was their connection.
She was found in a house that had caught fire. That didn't fit any patterns before or after.
It was ruled that maybe she was out drinking with her friends and had too much to drink, put a pot of beans on the stove to eat, and the fire engulfed the apartment.
Investigators say they suspect Valencia Jumper was sleeping when the fire in her 3rd floor apartment broke out. They say a pot left on her stove started the fire.
And I went into the kitchen and I opened a can of pork and beans or something, and I put it in a pot, put it on the stove, and I turned the stove on high.
He set the whole scene up that it looked like she fell asleep while she was cooking.
And I went to her kitchen, I noticed there was a bottle of rum, 151, and I poured the rum all over her body.
He considered her to be his little sister.
There were so many things in this case that were missed by various people. The only people who didn't miss the signs were her family. And her family fought tooth and nail to say this was not an accidental fire.
After Henry confessed, the medical examiner started re-examining the facts in that case. And one of the things that stood out was there was no soot or ash or anything in her throat where she breathed in smoke.
It should have been ruled that she was dead before the fire started. This case haunts me probably the most because of mistakes that were made, that had they not been made, Henry Wallace would have been charged then. And she was victim number 5. We wouldn't have had 5 more.
Henry Wallace's confession leaves veteran law enforcement shocked and almost caught off guard. But the next thing he does is remarkable. He takes the police on a field trip.
I knew this day was coming. I mean, I knew and I wanted it to come. And there have been several times during the actual crime that I was committing, I wanted to die. I ruined everything, man.
Henry Louis Wallace knew all of his victims, and they felt comfortable with him because he portrayed himself as the big brother, as the good friend.
Always very polite. It's the only male neighbor that I would even let in when my boyfriend wasn't at home. I mean, he was a friend. I trusted him.
Henry was like the perfect human predator.
So he kind of walked into their life knowing that at some point he's going to take their lives.
You never realized what Henry was all about. And by the time you did, it was too late.
If you would go ahead and start with the first name that you put on your list there. Carolyn Love, is it?
Caroline Love.
Where did you meet Carolyn?
Caroline, I met her through my girlfriend, Freddie.
And so we go to the board and we're looking for certain names, and Carolina Love name is not on the homicide board. So why is this name on the list?
Caroline Love was a woman that went missing in June of '92. She was a friend of Wallace's girlfriend at the time.
Remember, Shauna Hawk and Caroline Love were friends and they were co-workers.
We talked to him and he was very forthcoming, and he gave us a lot of information.
I dumped her body on the left side near where a ditch kind of led from the highway back into the woods.
You think you could find it again?
I know I could.
And so we decided to find Carolina Love. We put Henry in the back of the van, and he directed us out to this remote area of the county to a field.
The investigators were told exactly where to look for another victim in this bizarre case.
And it was the skeletal remains of Caroline Love.
That tells the cops that this guy is for real. He's a killer because he's the only person who's going to know this.
We have to tell the public that this case was not a missing person, it is now a homicide.
Painful. I cried all yesterday, I cried all last night.
Caroline's family is even more devastated. This is the same man that went with Caroline's sister, Kathy, to file a missing persons report.
Caroline's niece, Sarah, was only 8 years old when her aunt went missing. And who comforted her during that time? Henry Wallace.
Then I remember being in her room with him and sitting on his lap. And I remember being sad and crying. And I remember him telling me, it's gonna be okay, she's gonna come back.
The same day that Henry is consoling Sarah, the police arrive to speak with Caroline's family. They have no idea the killer is in their midst, listening to every word.
And in talking to him, he remembered us talking to Caroline Love's family about her having an orange jumpsuit from Bojangles. He said after hearing that conversation, he decided to go back and remove that orange jumpsuit from her, because if we were looking for it, it would be easily seen by an aerial helicopter or somebody's walking by.
He returned to her body disposal site, which was outside, numerous times.
I went back a couple of times since then, so I would remember where the body was.
Caroline's family, who had held out hope for so long about the fate of their loved one, now have to face the cruel reality that her remains have been found.
You told me she would come back, but you didn't tell me she would come back like that. I mean, we didn't have anything to go back to. Her body was bones.
Back in the interrogation room, detectives ask one final question.
Is there anything else you can remember? That's it.
Anybody else that you can think of in Charlotte or anywhere else that anything like this has ever happened to you before? You lived in South Carolina with your mom. Anything there that you remember?
One person.
Tell us about her.
Her name was Shanda, but they call her Shan.
Henry Wallace confesses to police that he killed 18-year-old Tashanda Bethea in 1990 in his hometown of Barnwell, South Carolina. It's believed that Tashanda was his first victim.
She left home about 5 o'clock on the 19th, and they reported her missing on the 20th because she didn't return home.
She was walking one day. I picked her up, and I told her that we were going out to get some pot. And I pulled off to the side of the road into a little ravine area.
Tashanda's body was found 2 weeks later by people fishing in a local pond.
The autopsy results show that she was strangled.
A few days later, Henry Wallace is brought in for questioning.
He was a very strong suspect, but we had nothing on him. He covered his alibis good.
I was questioned about her death, but I did not.
After literally getting away with murder, Henry Wallace moved to North Carolina, where he would kill again and again and again.
It's absolutely devastating. You're sitting there thinking the worst, hoping for the best, and that's exactly what these relatives were doing. And unfortunately, it was not a good ending.
Henry Wallace, dubbed by some in the media as the Taco Bell Strangler, confesses to killing 11 women. But the question remains, why?
Two of the FBI's most respected mind hunters want to know what's inside Henry Wallace's mind.
He had some obviously very lethal problems.
They sit him down for interviews and put it all on videotape.
It was out of my control.
For years, the FBI has been developing behavioral profiling techniques. And there's a woman named Ann Burgess, a professor and author from Boston College, who has helped them.
Until we understand what's going on in the mind of the criminal, we're going to have more and more victims.
She was one of the few women in the FBI at the time doing that work, and I thought it was time to get her story out there. So after a little bit of convincing, she agreed to write this book, A Killer by Design. Wallace is featured in the book because he was a really interesting case.
Henry Wallace was, not that we would call him atypical, but certainly very different from some of the others. People liked him, and he was social.
Burgess was tapped by Henry Wallace's defense team to do an analysis on his mind.
The jury was to decide whether he deserved death or whether he deserved life. They just asked us to do a background and present what we thought.
She and retired FBI agent Robert Ressler visited Wallace inside the jail and conducted interviews. All of it was put on videotape.
The footage was provided exclusively to ABC News 2020.
Henry Wallace was quite open in what he talked about. He had many strengths in growing up, but he also had some obviously very lethal problems.
Do you understand any of this any better since you had a chance to kind of reflect on it?
Within this shell, there are two people. One person being a chameleon. He will adapt to anything, any environment, any situation, and he's a very well respected, very well liked person. He almost lures the women in for the other person.
So he had good Henry and bad Henry. Good Henry was a friendly person that made friends very easily, dated women very easily.
But then he said the bad Henry would come out, the monster, so to speak. He came out, he was angry, he had to kill them. Why he couldn't stay good Henry for a long time, we don't know, but he just couldn't.
But what's generating the anger?
Experiences in the past.
One of the reasons that Wallace points to for committing his crimes is he did have a really tough upbringing.
Henry tells them that when he was a child, he was molested. He also reveals that he and his mother, when he was growing up, had an extremely volatile relationship.
I was terrified of my mother. terrified.
From
The beatings.
Henry also described being constantly teased about being a cheerleader and other things.
He was teased about his size, he was teased about his color.
Wallace was trying to reshape this really terrible childhood that he had by taking out his aggressions on people that he knew as if that was a replacement for the bad situations of his past.
He married his high school sweetheart, this prom photo capturing them in happier times.
But the marriage didn't last long and ended right before he moved to Charlotte.
It all starts collapsing after the wife left him.
I grew to hate her very much. And there's still a lot of hatred inside for her. And I think that had I lived in South Carolina and not in Charlotte, that she would probably be one of the victims.
Wallace did think about killing his wife, but he was not able to actually go through with it.
I think that the majority of the victims reminded me of her in some way. Or when the murder and rape was taking place, who I was seeing was her and not the victim.
After his marriage dissolved, then Henry had to move back in with his mother.
That really kind of was the straw that broke it all down. And that's when he started into his murderous behavior.
My mom was very violent, and I think more than, other than a mate in these women, I was looking for a mother as well, or traits of my mother. And they were there, and all of them.
Henry Wallace was danger disguised as a friend, and his victims never saw him coming.
They felt comfortable with him because he portrayed himself as the big brother, as the good friend.
I think that was one of his motivations in a lot of these killings, was they were women he liked who didn't like him that way.
That's a more classic kind of a type of motive, if you will, for a serial killer.
One of the biggest questions for Burgess and Ressler was, how did Henry Wallace evade police for so long?
The only time that the police were concerned when the two murders occurred on the same day. That's when Barkham and Henderson.
Same day.
Yeah. That's when all of a sudden they started seeing connections and things that had happened 20 months ago.
You've got to do the victimology first, because they would have realized that they knew each other in some capacity, and that would have been a way to then zero in on Henry.
Burgess testified for the defense, and she told the jury that Wallace, while he was committing these murders, was in an alternate mental state.
I did feel that he was not in total control of his thoughts, that he was being controlled, if you will, by the obsession.
Henry Wallace was convicted of the rape and murder of 9 women.
I think we all knew what the verdict was going to be, guilty. So the real question was, does he live, does he die?
The jury recommended death. And again, I don't think anyone was terribly surprised.
It's such a sad case. It's not like you celebrate.
I just want people to not forget, you know, what happened to these girls in Charlotte, North Carolina. We don't want people to go around and hear the name Henry Wallace and not know who he is, you know, because, you know, he was a black serial killer that killed a lot of black women. I want the world to know what happened and that these girls' lives mattered.
Finally, there's justice. But there's one more victim of Henry Wallace's rampage. The sole survivor is now all grown up.
18-year-old Brandy Henderson strangled to death.
Brandy Henderson's 10-month-old baby was also attacked and left for dead.
Henry said he got mad and said, "You got to do something with this baby. You got to shut this baby up," because Tyrese was sitting right there beside her. He was pulling on his mom, on Brandy. So he took a pair of shorts and tied around his neck until he got quiet.
I think about Brandy's child often. How do you go on with your life? How does any loved one go on with their life when something this horrible happens?
The picture that we took of him at the hospital, it's like I still see that picture in my mind every day.
After he got out of the hospital, his father took him to Chicago. And when Tyrese was 5, his father passed away.
I'm still here. If it wasn't me reading these stories, I would have thought that I had died. So I'm like, reading these, well, I know this baby died. I know this. He survived? Are you freaking serious? He's well, he has a family, he's married, he's doing something with himself.
You know those Pop Rock candies? That's like him. That's exactly what I can describe him as. He's a ball of energy.
I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm an entrepreneur. I try and be a great role model because I do have 3 sons.
He's been through a lot of things. He's had it rough.
He realized he never grieved for his mother, and he grew up without his mother's love.
I went through a whole grieving class. I wrote my mama a letter. I told her I was mad. I told her I was angry. I told her how much I missed her. I told her how sorry I was because I know that I wasn't doing the right things.
When I heard about his mother, inside I was crying, outside I was strong. I'm finding out more and more about the situation with his mother every day. I went and searched for it just to know, what type of woman she was and how it's instilled in him.
She was such a great mother. She would have done anything at all for him. Brandy told me that when she had Tyrese, that she felt like her life was complete.
They tell me that she was a great person. They say that she wanted the best for me. They're like, I was her masterpiece. It's like, I'm somebody's masterpiece. Like, that's a huge compliment for me.
I saw Tyrese when he was like 9 years old. We went to Chicago and visited him. But since then, since that time, I lost track. I feel guilty about it, but I just could not stay in contact with him because I knew he would have all these questions and I wasn't ready.
After 20 years, Brandy's cousin and close friend, George Burrell, is now reuniting with Brandy's son, Tyrese.
What's up, dog?
Oh, man.
What's up, old boy?
Oh, my gosh, man.
I've been to Charlotte.
Wow. Yes, and hello.
Liz, George,
nice
Liz.
Liz.
Finally.
Man, it's good to see you.
You too. You getting old. You got
thank
gray
you.
hair. You got a gray beard.
See that?
Yeah.
The guilt, when she told me, come over and see me that night, and I didn't go, and then he came and killed me.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, as Brandy's son, listen, tell me how, as her son, my boy, you're not responsible for anything that happened to us. I also remember her life isn't the only life. It was also other victims and it's other family members who feel the same pain.
You healed, but you still got them scars.
Look at my neck, dog.
Man. I remember that, looking at you through the hospital door. Look, I'm shaking. Wow. That's how close, look at that, that's how close you came to not being here. Oh, my word. Wow. Your lips are still red from being strangled.
Yeah, and that was the main part. I'm like, that's why I say I'm the only survivor. Like, that's a survivor.
Yeah.
That little baby right there, like.
And that's you now.
Yeah, that's me now. Still with the tears and all, bro.
Wow.
At trial, Henry Wallace was found guilty of the assault on Tyrese.
It's like, why didn't I die? Truthfully, I wanted to die for a long time. As I started learning more that I'd be too selfish, she fought too hard to keep me alive. And that's why I didn't die. There's no time frame on grieving. There's no time frame on how long you can and can't miss somebody. But it's like, I'm a survivor.
Wallace was sentenced to death, but now he's asking a judge for a new trial.
For him to be here pleading for his life, not fair. It's not justice.
And I just believe it's time. It's time for us to finally see that end. It's 25 years this year that he was sentenced to death, and I'm ready for him to be executed.
I think he got an appropriate sentence, but North Carolina has not executed anyone in a very long time.
My goal now is to start a petition and let people sign that so that we can get an execution date and finally get this resolved.
I was determined that I wasn't going to hate him. You kind of have to let it go, otherwise it will consume you.
I don't feel hate for him now. I started journaling, and it really did help.
I forgave Henry years ago for the madness of what he did.
I don't harbor that hate for him, but I do think that justice should be served.
Audrey is buried in South Carolina. My dad donated an acre of land for a new cemetery, and Audrey was the first one buried in that cemetery.
She has a niece named Audrey Lynette Franklin. Part of her legacy will definitely continue, so we're excited about that.
She does have a son. His name is Eric Slaughter. He reminds me of Deborah a lot. I think she would be very proud of him and the progress that he has made in his life.
I just wanted mothers to come together and join our forces and our hearts. MOMO, Mothers of Murdered Offspring.
The whole point in MOMO being created was to make sure that Shauna's memory lived on.
Should have never happened. But it made us better detectives, and it made Charlotte Police Department a better homicide unit.
In a statement to 2020 about the Wallace investigation, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department says the detectives worked the cases as diligently as they would have any homicide case, with the race of the victim being irrelevant. In the aftermath of the murders, the department says it added staffing to the homicide unit and implemented regular mandatory meetings to better identify related cases.
You know, the guys in the homicide unit, I know them all from that time. It's just that they were put in a situation where you just couldn't win.
Listen to the families, because they are the voices of the victims.
I fight for my own breath sometimes. I fight to be here. If I had $1 for every time that I've been told, Miss Sumter, I know I'm gonna make it because you're making it. None of these young African-American ladies deserve to die. They were young ladies who deserve to have a bright future. And so, you know, my hope and prayer is that even though as tragic as this was, something positive will come out of it.
Something that was so totally unexpected.
Someone had broken into the home, killed Matthew with the gunshot, and then took Mary and the girls and left.
A church pastor is dead, and his family is missing at this hour.
When you add religion to murder and then sprinkle in abuse, and everyone's in shock and no one knows who to believe.
This is pretty telling. The killer unplugged the phone.
Yes.
So no one could call anywhere for help.
People were frantic, thinking that there may be a killer on the loose.
The most important thing to them right now is to find Mary Winkler and find the 3 girls.
So how does that missing wife and mother go from lost to found?
Ma'am, get out of the vehicle. Get your hands out of the vehicle now. Get out.
Winding up in a police investigation.
I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem, and so my ugly came out.
So my ugly came out.
Get out of the vehicle now. Get out. 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 Get out
I guess my ugly came out. What does that mean?
We could not have fathomed what actually did come out, not in our wildest thoughts.
This is stuff that doesn't happen to church folks.
The ugly side came out. Somebody ended up shot dead.
It became one of the biggest, most talked about stories in the entire country. And it all started here in the heart of the Bible Belt, in this small church in the tiny town of Selmer, Tennessee. Matthew Winkler would preach to his congregation every Sunday morning here about right and wrong and about living your life in the service of God.
On March 22nd, 2006, everyone was gathering at the church, ready for the Wednesday night service.
Matthew Winkler was pretty new at being the new head preacher, so he certainly didn't miss any services.
It's unheard of for the preacher, his wife, and his daughters who are there every week, and they don't show up.
But even though they kept watching the door, waiting for him to come through it with apologies and messages of love for the congregation, it never happened.
Overcome with worry and concern, some of the members of the congregation take a 5-minute drive to the church parsonage behind me. It's where the minister, Matthew, his wife, and 3 children lived. Once inside, the church members make a shocking discovery.
We were knocking on the windows, knocking on the doors. At that point is when I felt that something was wrong because the key was on the inside of the door, the TV was on, and there was no answer.
At some point, they go inside the home, walk through, calling his name, calling Mary's name, calling for the girls.
We're yelling, "Is anyone in here? Can anybody hear us?"
They looked around, no Mary, no little girls. Everything looked normal, nothing looked out of place. But the master bedroom door was shut. They walked over and opened it, and all their nightmares were answered.
So Matthew laying there on his back, a foam was protruding from his mouth and nose. We knew pretty obviously that he was dead at that time. So we called 911, and then we all gathered in the living room and held hands and prayed for Mary and the children because we had assumed that they had been abducted.
Church members couldn't fathom who would kill their preacher. This was a man who, in fact,
It's in his blood, literally. Mary grew up in a Church of Christ family also.
Mary was raised in a strict household in Knoxville, Tennessee. At South Doyle High School, she was known as a reserved student with a good sense of humor.
She didn't draw a lot of attention to herself. That's also true of many women in the Churches of Christ Church. They don't want to bring a lot of attention on themselves.
Mary was cute as a button. She was always ready with a smile and a touch on the hand. And she just was the perfect embodiment of a Church of Christ woman.
Mary and Matthew met at Freed Hardeman College. It's a college affiliated with the Church of Christ. And Mary has said that initially they were just friends, but then they started dating, and apparently Matthew must have liked her because 3 months later he asked her to marry him.
both Matthew and Mary dropped out of school because they couldn't afford it anymore. And then Matthew got work as a youth minister in McMinnville, Tennessee. How would you describe the Church of Christ to someone who's not familiar with it?
It's very conservative, a Bible-based church. We say we have no creed but the Bible.
They believe in the literal interpretation of the Bible. And there are scriptures in the Bible that says that a woman is subservient to the man. Board of elders, the preacher, all of those in the leadership positions are men.
Tell me about Matthew's temperament.
Gregarious, somebody who could go into a room of strangers and make friends within minutes.
Magnetic personality.
Magnetic personality.
Your impression of Mary?
Mary seemed like a frail and vulnerable woman. She had a downcast look. She would not make eye contact, and she was walking 3 or 4 steps behind Matthew.
Matthew had this feeling he couldn't measure up to his father. He bristled under just being a youth minister. He wanted to be the preacher of his own church.
It was in January of 2005 that Matthew and Mary Winkler moved here to the town of Selmer. Matthew had just landed his dream job, named the head pastor here at the Church of Christ.
Selmer is a sleepy little town in Tennessee, right by the border with Mississippi. It is a place where people sit out on their porch drinking sweet tea and talking with their neighbors as they walk by. It's very Southern in so many ways.
One of Elvis Presley's first outside of Memphis performances was here in this county. The highway going through Selmer to Elvis's home is called Rockabilly Highway.
What is this town like?
Small town.
Yeah.
Close, unit family.
Pretty religious? I see a lot of churches here.
Yes. Almost every corner you'll find a church.
True happiness is found in God's Word. True happiness is not only found in God's Word, it's found by living the way God says to live in that Word.
The Winklers found a wonderful church in Selmer, Tennessee, and the people of the community and congregation embraced them and welcomed them. It seemed like the perfect scenario. That is, until March 22nd of 2006, when that beloved young minister was found dead on the floor of his bedroom.
Was it a kidnapping? And it just went wrong.
Someone definitely intended to kill Matthew Winkler.
In a small town, people were frantic, thinking there was a killer on the loose.
And where were Mary and the girls?
Had someone unknown come into the home, killed Matthew, and gone off in the family van with the 3 girls and Mary, holding them captive.
On March 21st, 2006, in the small town of Selmer, Tennessee, Matthew and Mary Winkler, along with their 3 little girls, settle in for a quiet evening at home. They order pizza and watch the animated movie Chicken Little.
The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
But somehow, this everyday peaceful family activity would turn into a gruesome crime scene with seemingly deadly intention.
Matthew Winkler was shot in the back with a 12-gauge shotgun. 12-gauge shotgun is either used to hunt or personal protection, and it's used to kill. My initial thought was someone definitely intended to kill Matthew Winkler.
Members of the 4th Street Church of Christ find their beloved minister, Matthew Winkler, dead in his home, just minutes away from the sanctuary. They immediately call the police. Where were you when you got the phone call?
I was at home, of course, in bed, or getting ready to go to bed. Then I immediately started reaching out to the agents and the crime scene team to get them to start responding to this location.
When the police came into the house, they cleared all the church members out, but they interviewed them as well and started picking apart the scene, looking for anything that could give them information.
They would have started with the interior, taking photographs, taking measurements.
Nothing was out of place. It wasn't ransacked, looking for valuables. But what would stand out is when you got to the back bedroom.
There were blood stains on the pillows. There were blood stains on the floor.
Matthew was laying beside the bed, and that's where he was found.
But you think he was shot while he was still in bed?
Yes, and he would have rolled over.
Investigators were thinking of a lot of things that this scenario suggested.
You have someone fatally wounded. No one else is around. Is this some type of robbery that had turned into murder?
Was this a vendetta or was it a kidnapping? And it just went wrong.
At that point, you don't know?
You don't know. I mean, it's a mystery.
What do we have here?
This is actually the bed.
This is the
That
bed.
would have been where he was sleeping.
Could have been shot from here or from here.
Well, probably from this side.
Right.
He was shot on the bed, so that tells you that the shooter had no confrontation with him. There was no defense that Matthew could have put up, being that he was shot in the back.
And this is the shotgun shell.
It's actually the round that killed him.
Over here, this is the bird shot.
That's some of the bird shot.
Recovered from his body.
Correct.
This is the actual shotgun.
Yes, sir.
Can you show it to us?
That's 12 gauge pump.
What kind of damage can it do? Close up.
Well, lots of damage.
A 12-gauge shotgun shooting birdshot. When it makes impact, it's going to explode with all of these pellets. And Matthew had somewhere over 70 pellets in his back.
And for investigators, each crime scene tells its own story. And this one would reveal a chilling detail. It seemed that the perpetrator wanted to seal Matthew's fate with absolute certainty.
They were very disturbed when they noticed the telephone, clearly placed in a position that was out of Matthew's reach. And it was disconnected from the wall jack.
So the killer unplugged the phone.
Yes.
So no one could call anywhere for help.
That's what we believe. Even if he was able to survive or even live long enough to reach up and grab the receiver and hit zero, it wasn't going to work.
There is breaking news that we've been following all day out of Selmer, Tennessee. It is a case of tragedy in a small town. A church pastor is dead.
While investigators were combing through the crime scene, news of the death of the much-beloved preacher Matthew Winkler shook Selmer to its core.
And, you know, it's just shock. Everybody's just in shock about it.
This is the 4th Street Church of Christ here in Selmer, and all day long, church members have been coming and going. You can see it in their faces how distraught they are about the death of Pastor Matthew Winkler.
Who would have done something like this? Everybody loved him from what we understood.
People were frantic, thinking that there may be a killer somewhere in their community.
And do police have a motive they're working on, any kind of theory here?
Now, they are telling us very, very little about this.
Matthew was often approached by people who had addiction problems or financial problems. What if Matthew turned one of those people away? What if they had come back in anger?
An Amber Alert is issued for 3 little girls.
Police need to find Mary Winkler, 1-year-old Brianna, 6-year-old Mary Alice, and 8-year-old Patricia.
They, along with their gray minivan, were missing. Were they in danger?
An Amber Alert is issued for 3 little girls. They disappeared from their home in Selmer, Tennessee. Their mother is missing as well. Church members found their father, Pastor Matthew Winkler, dead
With the young minister found dead in his bedroom, the community of Selmer was on edge.
There was a possibility this could have been a burglary that turned into murder.
Who is here in our community would do that? You know, this person's loose. People were worried.
Take a look at the van the mother and the children may be in. It is a 2006 gray Toyota Sienna.
The most important thing to them right now is to find Mary Winkler and find the 3 girls.
Almost 24 hours after the discovery of Matthew's body, there's a sighting of a gray minivan matching the description of the Winklers' missing vehicle. It was spotted in the seaside community of Orange Beach, Alabama.
That shoreline is particularly spectacular. They call it the Gold Coast of Alabama.
1025. I was traveling westbound on the road directly behind us.
That's it. 10-4, that's the vehicle.
And this van pulled right out in front of me, a Toyota Sienna minivan, matching the description of the van we'd been looking for.
10-4, we're pulling in the parking lot. 1033.
Knowing that there was a possibility that Mary and her girls had been kidnapped, they were extremely cautious approaching that vehicle. They had their guns out.
Ma'am, get out of the vehicle. Get your hands out of the vehicle now! Yeah, step out of the vehicle. Put the vehicle in park and step out.
There she was, Mary Winkler, in a pink jumpsuit, looking as innocent as anybody walking down the street could look.
With no supposed kidnapper behind the wheel.
Walk back! Walk back! Keep walking!
Mary Winkler goes from being a potential victim to a suspect in her husband's death.
She got out and she never asked why she was stopped, why there was officers pointing guns at her or anything. She made no really expression on her face, and she was detained.
Hey girl, how you doing?
After we detained her, we ran to the minivan to check the welfare of the children. They just kept repeating, what's going on, where's mommy going?
Did my mommy do anything?
Shortly after Mary's arrest, police search the minivan and they make a stunning discovery.
It was soon after Mary was apprehended by the Orange Beach Police Department. A shotgun was found in the minivan.
You've heard the term, we found the smoking gun. Well, that's exactly what we thought. We had found the smoking gun, and it was just our job now to put the facts and the details together.
Back in 2006, Stan Stabler was a corporal with the Alabama Bureau of Investigation.
I received a call from Orange Beach Police Department that evening. They requested that I come to interview Mary Winkler. It's March 23, it's about 9:55 p.m. We're at Orange Beach PD. I'm Stan Stabler with ABI. If you would just speak your name for me, please, ma'am.
Mary Winkler.
When we first started, I got a lot of background information about her, their marriage. How long have you been married?
9 years, 11 months.
How was your marriage?
Good.
We talked about the children. I met your daughters, and very sweet girls. Had McDonald's, they eat, and they're wrapped up in blankets, warm, watching a movie.
Thank you.
I wanted to build a rapport with Mary where she felt comfortable with me. Something to drink?
Water's fantastic.
Okay.
Sitting across from him is this eerily calm mother of 3, 400 miles away from home. Stan Stabler wondered why did Mary Winkler drive her girls all the way to Orange Beach, Alabama?
They've never been to a beach that they remember. This is just my last time to be with them. I just wanted to be with them before they had bad days. To have a happy day.
She wanted to spend some time with the girls because she felt that she would not be seeing them after she was caught.
I asked her about anyone else involved, an affair. Y'all didn't have any major problems going on?
No.
Anybody else involved with either party?
Oh, no.
She was not as emotional as a person should be if they learned about the murder of their spouse.
Just go step from step and tell me what happened.
just can't.
Why can't you talk to us? Is it me? I mean...
No.
She was very strong-willed not to disclose a lot of details.
I want to hear your side.
I appreciate I feel like you have genuine concern, and I do appreciate you.
Tell me why a mother of 3, a wife of over 9 years, almost 10 years, what would make you do this? Why?
No comment.
It was a very, very strange interview.
Has he ever hurt you?
Not physically.
She said she did not want to talk about Matthew because she didn't, quote, want to smear him.
No matter what, in the end, I don't want him smeared.
All we are seeking the truth. And we're not here to smear anybody.
Corporal Stabler asks Mary about that shotgun that police suspect she used to kill her husband.
Did you load it?
I messed it up and then put it back out.
Where was it?
We keep it in the top of the closet out of reach.
The truth started coming out. Mary admitted she was holding that gun. She didn't admit that she pulled the trigger. She said she didn't remember that.
How many times did you shoot? Just one time?
Surely not.
Huh?
Surely not.
How do you know you didn't shoot more than once?
I don't.
And then finally, after almost 2 hours of questioning, a possible motive.
I love you dearly. But gosh, he could just nail me in the ground. I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem. And so my ugly came out.
When the ugly side came out, somebody ended up shot dead.
For almost 2 hours, Corporal Stan Stabler prods Mary Winkler about her relationship with her late husband, Matthew.
Mary Winkler eventually, during that interview in Alabama, did tell investigators that he picked on her. What she was describing as someone who was abusive.
How would he run you down?
Just chewing on you, yeah.
Just fussing at you,
Just
nagging all the
mistakes.
time?
And some well-deserved, by all means.
I think it's old.
But gosh, I don't want to talk about that now. I love you dearly. But gosh, he could just nail me in the ground. I just took it like a mouse. Didn't think anything different. I never spoke up.
She told me he was a good man. He was a good father. He was a good husband. She said, you know, at times he would get mad. She related it to blood pressure problems.
But he was so good. So good, too. A lot of times he had high blood pressure, but he'd never go enough to the doctor to get medicine for it. There's no sense, you know, just say the lady was a moron, evil woman.
She said she had had thoughts in the past about killing him.
Yeah, I didn't just get up and say, hey, let's see how this thing works. I've been battling it not to do that for him, and I don't know why.
Was he chewing on you when it happened?
I don't even know.
Mary had said that she got a job. Then she said her self-esteem started coming out. And then she started speaking up about things she didn't like.
I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem. And so my ugly came out.
When the ugly side came out, somebody ended up shot dead. So that's what Mary's ugly side is. The side that shoots her husband in the back with a shotgun.
Mary waived her right to an extradition hearing and willingly went back to face justice in Tennessee.
While in Tennessee, investigators from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation take another statement from Mary, which she initials.
And this time, Mary drops a few bombshells about the morning Matthew was killed. While she never admits to pulling the trigger of the shotgun, Mary does tell TBI agents she heard a loud boom, wiped blood from Matthew's mouth, and told him she was sorry.
It became real obvious that there was only one thing for the police in Tennessee to do, and that was to charge her with murder.
The startling account of a pastor's wife accused of killing her husband becomes big national news.
This is Good Morning America.
That murder mystery that has stunned everyone. A popular minister in Tennessee gunned down in his home, and the confessed killer is his young wife. Why?
People were wondering what would cause them to have their ugly come out.
Knowing Mary the way I did, I knew that he had to do something to push her over.
Mary's sisters say they saw a change in Mary once she got married.
I don't remember hearing her laugh. She was not a happy person.
Mary's other sister, Amanda, and her father, Clark, say they saw bruises on Mary.
I didn't say anything because if I was to say who gave that to you and that would make her mad, I wouldn't see her again.
I saw terrible bruises, the heaviest of makeup covering facial bruises. So one day I confronted her and I said, Mary Carol, you are coming off as a very abused wife. And Mary Carol would hang her head and say, no, Dad, everything's all right, everything's all right. And several times I talked very seriously to her about leaving him, and she just did not want to. I feel so bad about this. I feel like I have a part in it. I should have talked more to Mary Carol.
There were people who said that they did see a short temper in Matthew. According to the neighbor, that their dog had gotten into the Winkler yard, and Matthew yelled at the neighbor.
He said, keep the damn dogs out of our yard or we'll shoot him. He had a temper on him. I've never met a preacher like him.
This never rose where it was ever a volatile encounter with somebody. It was just being stern, like the dog, hey, please do this. I've warned you.
As investigators dig deep into the Winklers' lives, they come to believe that Matthew's killing may actually have been about money.
That's what was the root of the evil in this whole situation.
According to them, Mary was knee-deep in financial fraud, and investigators suspect that weighing heavily on her mind was an upcoming trip to the local bank.
The bankers set a meeting for Mary and Matthew to meet at the bank on March 22nd.
I think she was desperate and afraid.
Mrs. Winkler is set for arraignment before a McNairy County judge.
After Matthew's death, Mary appeared in a Selmer courtroom, trading in her Sunday best for an orange jumpsuit.
It was somewhat of a shocking vision because she just does not look like anyone who could do anything like shoot her husband.
State of Tennessee versus Mary Carol Winkler. You're charged under Tennessee Code with first-degree murder.
After pleading not guilty to first-degree murder, Mary is led away in shackles.
Outside of the courthouse, church members stood in solidarity with the preacher's wife.
We had a special prayer for her at church last night, and we forgave her.
It's in God's plan, but there has to be a reason, because if we can't believe that, we cannot go on.
Mary's supporters believe that her years of alleged abuse culminated in the accidental shooting death of her husband. But investigators say the real motive in this case was money.
Early on in the investigation, TBI was interviewing local banks, and they more or less came to the TBI and said, "We got to tell you what's going on here."
Investigators have learned from bank officials that Mary was in over her head financially
after they say she got caught up in a so-called lottery scam, which was sweeping the country.
A lottery scam is when you get email or even a letter that tells you that you have won a lottery.
Here's how it works. The scammer sends a counterfeit check for an initial payment worth thousands of dollars. Now, in return, you're supposed to send them money to cover the processing fees.
The scammers make money off what you send them. Meanwhile, all you get is a worthless check.
Mary had entered all sorts of things. So when she got this saying that she'd won $250,000, she believed it.
What do we have here?
These are bogus checks.
So Mary Winkler got these checks in the mail.
Yes.
And she thought, wow, $4,880, $4,900.
Yeah. You're going to receive lots more once you send us the money, but she did not send the money back. She kept all the money. Back in those days, if a person deposited a check or cashed a check, they would actually receive the complete amount of money because it immediately went into your bank account.
Back then, you just didn't have the automation like you have today. So it could take weeks for the checks to come back as counterfeit. So when that happened, the banks wanted their money back from Mary, over $16,000.
And that is when investigators allege Mary cooked up a scheme of her own to cover her losses.
She was actually writing checks for one bank to cover checks at another bank.
What investigators say Mary was doing is called check kiting, floating funds between banks, and that's where the kite comes in.
And in doing so, she knew that she didn't have the funds in that bank to cover the charges, and that is an illegal act.
It's easy to see how desperation can lead you down that path where you're trying to find a way out and you don't know what to do.
Was there any evidence that Matthew, her husband, the minister, was in on this or knew about it?
We have no evidence because he never went to the bank. He never had his name on anything. These other accounts was in her name, so he wouldn't have access to her accounts.
According to investigators, Mary went to great lengths to conceal her alleged financial crimes from Matthew.
They say she opened up a personal account out of town, changed her mailing address to a P.O. box,
and she even tried to remove Matthew's name from their bank account. But investigators say Mary's alleged financial scheme fell apart after one late deposit sent her bank account into a tailspin.
I think it got a little out of hand because she got at some point like $5,000 overdrawn, which is a really bad position to be in. $5,000 in 2006 on a small town pastor's pay and a substitute teacher. You might as well say $100,000.
Things came to a head on March 21st, 2006. That day, Mary Winkler was working as a substitute teacher here at Selmer Elementary School. She receives an urgent call from the bank asking her to come in the very next day to clear up her overdrawn account. And they tell her to bring her husband, Matthew, along.
In fact, in this statement to TBI, Mary admitted to having a heated discussion with Matthew about their finances the night before the shooting. She says, I had gotten a call from the bank, and we were having troubles. Mostly my fault. Bad bookkeeping. And then she goes on to say that the two were upset with each other and that she got to a point and snapped.
Do you think this is why she killed him?
Oh yes, that somebody's gonna have to face the music, and it was gonna come back on her.
There must have been a lot of pressure on Mary to keep that away from Matthew. It was going to be embarrassing for the Church of Christ congregation. It was going to speak very loudly that something's amiss in this family. It's a reflection of the church, it's a reflection of God.
How's Mary feeling?
Prosecutors might think this is an open and shut case, but as Mary's murder trial gets underway, no one could imagine the twists and turns to come.
Mary Winkler had what appeared to everyone a marriage made in heaven, but behind closed doors, it was a living hell.
Ms. Winkler, if you'll come forward, please, ma'am.
And when the demure preacher's wife takes the stand, dark and lurid details would soon come to light.
Did it hurt you?
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness gracious.
This is stuff that doesn't happen.
And now he's got a hellacious shotgun wound in his back. And his wife wants you to believe that she was driven to it.
She certainly wasn't acting like someone who shot her husband in the back.
I don't know that anyone anywhere had any idea of what was to come in this trial.
So it got heated in the jury room.
How are you going to defend yourself?
He threatened me with the shotgun many times, putting it in my face.
Mary Winkler appeared to have had a marriage made in heaven, but behind closed doors, it was a living hell.
When they brought out the shoe and the wig, there was a gasp in the courtroom.
Matthew wanted me to wear it, to dress up.
Dress up for what purpose, Mary?
Sex.
Oh my God, wow.
That if you looked up spousal abuse in the dictionary, you're going to see Mary Winkler's picture looking back at you.
Was Mary Winkler a victim or a villain?
Will the real Mary Winkler please stand up?
A grand jury had indicted Mary Winkler on a first-degree murder charge for the killing of her preacher husband, Matthew Winkler. She pled not guilty and went back to McMinnville after her father posted her $750,000 bond. Mary's 3 girls continued living with Matthew's parents, whom they'd been with since Mary's arrest.
Everywhere, everyone was covering the story of Mary Winkler. When you put the story in a nutshell, this preacher's wife shoots her husband in the back while he's sleeping and then takes her daughters to the beach. That sounds outrageous, absolutely outrageous. How can you not follow that story?
Well, people were wondering what would bring someone to this breaking point. What would cause them to have their ugly come out? And I think that was the big question.
And the fact this happened in the heart of the South, in the Bible Belt, was like fascinating to people because it wasn't supposed to happen. These are supposed to be godly people. Well, you know, godly does not mean perfect. And Mary proved that very well.
So this is the cleaners where Mary worked?
Yes. We're at the dry cleaners, where Dry Cleaning Express, where Mary worked during her bond supervision. I would have to come and check on her.
What were your impressions of her during that bond period?
She was just real quiet, reserved.
We all just really loved her, and we got to be good friends. And we picked up a lot of new customers from her church that has decided to do business here because they want to be supportive of Mary.
But one question dividing the people of the town following the case at the time: was Mary actually the quiet preacher's wife everyone thought they knew, or was there another side to her, like the one Libby St. John and her husband at the time saw one night at a restaurant in McMinnville?
Well, we had been in there sitting at the bar, and Mary came in, and she was chain smoking cigarettes and drinking. It just seemed like she was so carefree that evening that it just shocked me. I almost wanted to go over there and say, listen, this isn't a good idea for you to be doing this. The owner of that establishment said while she was out on bond, she'd been there to celebrate several different occasions and her birthday recently. And so she'd been there several times. It just wasn't a one-off. You don't usually see Church of Christ preachers' wives smoking. She certainly wasn't acting like someone who'd shot her husband in the back.
And your husband at the time starts taking pictures.
He took them with his cell phone. The pictures made quite a splash when they came out.
These cell phone pictures, first obtained by Action News 5, are the talk of this quiet town.
I remember the bar pictures, the very things that seemed completely out of character from what anybody's seen.
She was not supposed to be drinking.
Well, I think that basically it was not excessive alcohol. I think that's what was on the bond.
But it didn't look good.
No, I'm sure it didn't look, no, it probably didn't look good. It didn't sit well with people.
The way this came to us, this was like walking into a Kafka novel. Nothing lines up with logic.
Her life was taking some strange turns that didn't make any sense.
Her outward appearance changed, her clothing changed. It was like someone flipped a switch.
And when she started kind of hanging out at night, there was a feeling that this was a little quick. Why are you doing this? Maybe were you that the whole time? And it just gave people pause.
Will the real Mary Winkler please stand up? Is she the quiet, docile minister's wife, or is she something quite different?
With the trial gearing up, everyone was about to hear a tale they never expected from the preacher's wife.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone in Selma, a few people anywhere, had any idea of what was to come in this trial.
Mary's murder trial began on April 9, 2007, with the prosecution pushing for a first-degree conviction. The case was one of the biggest things the small town of Selma, Tennessee has ever seen. The media put this tiny courthouse right in the middle of the public's attention.
Television stations from Nashville, from Memphis, some from Huntsville, Alabama, were there in the courthouse because this was such a big story.
What was interesting was Mary Winkler arriving with her attorneys, appearing about as meek as you could appear.
Inside, the courtroom was packed, and the crowd included members of both families.
You had Matthew Winkler's parents there. Mary Winkler's family was there, her father.
We may begin with opening statements. The state may proceed first.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walt Freeland. I'm an assistant district attorney. My strategy, like in every case, is to put on all my facts, because facts are stubborn things. You have to set aside whatever you think might have happened and just listen to the facts. There is no good reason why Matthew Winkler was murdered by Mary Winkler.
The jurors are about to hear Mary's interrogation tape, where she says she snapped because of Matthew.
He would knock his self-esteem down?
No, just chewing whatever. And that's the problem. I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem, and so my ugly came out.
Just kind of got to a boiling point. Just boil over.
There's no sense, just say the lady was a moron, evil woman, and let's go on with it.
Prosecutors bring out that big, powerful shotgun that was used to kill Matthew. The point being to show the jurors that this could not have been an accident.
You couldn't just pick the gun up and pull the trigger unless it had been racked.
Could you prime it or pump it or whatever it takes to get it in a functioning position? Could you do that?
Yes, sir.
By racking the shotgun, it places a shotgun shell in the chamber so it can be fired. The fact that she did tells me she had already thought in her mind what it was going to be like to shoot that shotgun. All that leads me to believe premeditation.
But to rebut the prosecution's theory of premeditated murder, the defense will call their star witness.
The defense calls the defendant, Mary Carol Winkler.
The only person alive who knows exactly what happened the day Matthew was killed.
Somebody's looking to tell the truth, the whole truth, so help you God.
What's that mean?
The most important witness in this trial, the one that everyone anticipated, takes the stand. And she testifies to some pretty shocking stuff.
The jury has just heard audio of Mary Winkler's interrogation, where she seems to imply that she suddenly snapped because of her husband Matthew's treatment of her.
I have nerve now, and I have self-esteem, and so my ugly came out.
Prosecutors tell the jury that Mary's real motive for the killing had nothing to do with Matthew's treatment of her. Instead, they say that the motive was about that alleged financial fraud they claim she was knee-deep in.
This was a premeditated act because Mary Winkler was in control.
Although investigators believe that the money was the motive in this case, they never charged Mary with any financial crimes.
She was the one that handled the finances. The finances were in shambles.
A bank investigator testifies that Mary had allegedly been scamming banks out of thousands of dollars by writing checks to herself and then floating money from one account to another.
These deposits were drawn off of the same bank, First State Bank, and were deposited within days of each other into the ATM at Regions.
So this check from Mary Winkler to Mary Winkler for $2,000 was deposited in the Mary Winkler personal account on March 20th, 2006.
Correct.
March 22nd, 2006, Mary Winkler and her husband Matthew were supposed to go to the bank and explain where the money came from, where the money went, and how they were going to pay it back.
The house of cards which she had set up was falling down. March 22nd was the day it ended up that he was shot.
The prosecution claimed that Mary killed her husband Matthew because of the deep financial hole that she had dug for herself. But when it was the defense's turn, they painted a very different picture of Mary, claiming she was the victim in this case and Matthew was the villain.
Mary Winkler appeared to have had a marriage made in heaven, but behind closed doors, it was a living hell. The proof will show that Mary was his whipping boy.
Part of the defense strategy was to put Matthew on trial. They put on the stand a church secretary who claimed she overheard some really harsh words coming from Matthew to Mary.
The tone, the sounds were of anger, berating.
What did you say to Matthew?
Those are things that a husband shouldn't say to a wife. You are to be a leader by example and not by force.
Another witness to take the stand was Mary's own sister Tabitha. And she said Mary complained that Matthew tried to keep her away from her family and control her every move.
How would he act to her?
He pretty much dictated anything that she did. She wasn't allowed to make any decisions for herself. She would have to say, I have to check with Matt, and it was usually no.
There was testimony from the defense about how Matthew could act aggressively, but there was not a lot of information. And the jury may have thought, well, if he was this awful man, wouldn't more people have seen more?
Defense ready to call us next witness.
We are, Your Honor.
But the defense then called Mary herself, and she testified in explicit detail.
The defense calls the defendant, Mary Carol Winkler,
about exactly what she said happened behind closed doors.
Miss Winkler, if you'll come forward, please, ma'am.
As she took the stand, all eyes in the courtroom were riveted on Mary.
Mary Winkler was up there, appearing meeker than you would think anyone could. For much of the testimony, it appeared to be her head was down in shame.
Now remember, the state argued that Mary intentionally killed her husband to cover up a messy web of alleged fraudulent check kiting. But on the stand, Mary had a simple answer. Matthew made her do it.
Who directed those deposits?
Matthew told me where to put them, and I put them in the bank.
Mary also testified that Matthew knew that the banks were demanding answers over the financial issues with their accounts.
He was upset, and I just tried to continue encouraging him if he would please go in and do that.
Did he say he would?
He said he would, but he had been saying that for weeks.
Mary explained to the jury that she didn't stand up for herself because she was so afraid of Matthew's volatility, his temper.
How did he act when he yelled and screamed at you?
He flailed. He just was all over. He would just be furious. He went from certain threats to more serious threats.
Can you be specific to the jury about any threats?
He told me one time that he was going to cut the brake lines out of the van. He threatened me with the shotgun many times, putting it in my face. He told me if I ever talked back to him that he would cut me into a million pieces.
Dan and Diane Winkler sat through a trial where they heard some awful things about their son, and it had to be very difficult for them. And their faces were stoic, but you could also see how it was affecting them too.
When I asked her about abuse, I said, well, you know, did he physically abuse you? And she said, oh no. I believe her to this day that he never abused her.
There was no indication from any of the people interviewed that Mary had ever disclosed it to them as a friend, or it never came out about any physical abuse. She described Matthew as being a fine man, and there was never a hint of any abuse.
But it turns out that Mary's testimony about alleged abuse on the part of Matthew was just the tip of the iceberg. This case is moving in another direction.
The one question that nobody will forget is when Steve Faris handed her a bag.
What's in that sack, Mary? Put it up on the
When she was testifying to all of this, oh my God, wow. This is amazing testimony. This is shocking testimony. Almost couldn't believe it.
On trial for the murder of her preacher husband, Matthew. Mary Winkler tells jurors that she was living in a marriage from hell.
I had asked Matthew to have a divorce, and he absolutely denied it. That would not be allowed.
That was not an option?
No, sir.
According to who?
Matthew.
Preachers can't get a divorce. People want to know, okay, how do you preach the things you preach and you're divorced?
Mary's defense team would also expose what they said was another dark side of the Winklers' marriage. one that would take this trial into a surprisingly different arena.
What's in that sack, Mary?
Shoe and a wig.
Show me the shoe that's in there. Put it up on the side there. Is that the kind of shoe that you would wear to church?
No, sir.
Where'd you get that wig, Mary?
From Matthew.
Well, why was that shoe bought, Mary?
Matthew wanted me to wear it to dress up.
Dress up for what purpose, Mary?
Sex.
When they brought out the shoe and the wig and put those on the witness stand, there was a gasp in the courtroom. It was just a moment in this case, I think, that everything turned. And then hearing the preacher's wife accuse her dead husband of all of these things that were not allowed in the Churches of Christ congregations. These were sins.
Mary testified that Matthew had porn up on a computer and wanted her to watch it.
What would occur after he'd asked you to look at the photographs?
Go have sex.
Did he ever ask you to engage in any type of sex that you felt was unnatural?
Yes, sir. He just wanted to have sex with my bottom.
Did it hurt you?
Yes, sir.
The people in the courtroom, when she was testifying to all of this, you could kind of see on their faces like, oh my God, wow, this is shocking testimony.
For the life of me, I have never understood how wearing platform shoes and a wig for your husband gives you the right to shoot him in the back with a shotgun.
While the details of the Winklers' sex life caused a huge buzz inside the courtroom, the questions at hand were why and how Matthew was shot to death. And for the very first time, people heard Mary talk about what she says happened that morning, describing how it all started with the cries of their baby daughter.
Matthew kicked me out of the bed. He just caught me somewhere in the low of my back and I was on the floor.
What happened next?
He walked out of the room and then I got up and went after him.
Mary said she then saw Matthew covering the baby's nose and mouth to keep her from crying, something that she said he had done before.
What was he doing?
Suffocating her. I said, could I please have her? He just threw his arms up and walked out and walked away from the crib.
Mary says she was so disturbed by this incident that she followed Matthew back to the bedroom and she wanted to confront him about it.
I just wanted to talk to Matthew.
What did you want to talk to him about?
I just wanted to stop being so mean.
Mary testified she was afraid to talk to her husband and then found herself holding Matthew's shotgun.
Do you remember ever having a gun, holding a gun?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember ever pointing a gun?
No, sir.
Did you pull the trigger?
No, sir.
Did you intentionally, purposefully kill your husband?
No, sir.
Did you love your husband?
Yes, sir.
You still love him?
Yes, sir.
Mary had been very vague and foggy about a gun going off, which is a classic defense statement. They use the passive voice. They don't say, I shot a gun. They say, a gun went off.
So what was it that led you into the position of accidentally shooting Matthew Winkler?
I just wanted to talk to him.
It wasn't an accident, was it?
Yes, sir.
You just wanted to talk to him and he wouldn't listen. So you shot him in the middle of the back while he was asleep. Now, has that memory come back to you, Miss Winkler?
No, sir.
You recall telling Agent Carpenter you remember hearing a loud boom and remember thinking it wasn't as loud as I thought it would be.
I don't recall telling him that.
Do you remember today if you told Matthew that you were sorry and that you loved him?
Yes.
The defense called a licensed psychologist to the stand who had met with Mary several times, and she testified
that the reason Mary might not be able to remember the details of the shooting was because she had been traumatized by Matthew's treatment of her.
It's my professional opinion that Mary does suffer from a post-traumatic stress disorder, and at the time that this occurred, she was in a dissociated episode where...
Now the jury has a big decision. Couldn't Mary have gotten out of a bad marriage some other way? Or is she just a cold-blooded killer? This very debate is going to spark some fireworks in that jury room.
So it got heated in the jury room?
It did, very much so. Oh, I was ready to come across that table and strangle her.
This morning, the jury is in deliberations, and Mary Winkler's fate hangs in the balance.
Emotions ran high as jurors seemed hopelessly divided on whether Matthew Winkler's death was murder or a fatal accident.
There was some that didn't feel like she should get anything. They were ready to let her walk. They felt like he deserved what he got. And then you had some that was like, yes, she was abused, but she did take a life, and that she should get something out of it.
We were very stressed during that time because we didn't know how to work it out.
So it got heated in the
It
jury
did,
room?
very much so.
I hear that you got frustrated because one of the jurors wouldn't even admit that she pulled the trigger.
Yes.
Refused to believe it.
And I looked at her and I was like, what? I was ready to come across that table and strangle her because I thought that was completely ridiculous.
The jury also had doubts about the prosecution's claim that Mary killed Matthew to avoid embarrassment over their alleged financial troubles.
People did not care about the money aspect of it. That was not what was on our minds.
Even though she was called by the bank to go see them the next day, the day he was shot?
No, at the very forefront was the abuse. It never wavered from the forefront of our thoughts.
The jurors could convict Mary of first-degree murder, second-degree murder, voluntary or involuntary manslaughter, and it's anyone's guess where they were going to go.
And now you are looking at a live picture inside the courtroom. There you see Matthew Winkler's family, and they're all waiting for the jury.
After 8 hours of deliberation, the jury had finally reached a verdict.
And members of the jury are expected to read that verdict coming up momentarily.
Ms. Winkler, if you could please stand, ma'am.
And in true Mary Winkler fashion, she remained stoic as the verdict was read.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Mary C. Winkler, guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
There was a little bit of a gasp in the audience. I don't know that many people expected her to be convicted of anything less than first-degree murder.
With voluntary manslaughter, there is an intent to kill, but you were provoked by something.
There you see Mary Winkler's father, and he looks a little bit surprised there.
To the shock of Mary's supporters and the dismay of Matthews, Mary will face just 3 to 6 years behind bars.
Would this jury have allowed Mary to walk free?
Part of them would have.
No comment.
They felt like she had already lived through prison with the life that she lived, and that it was justified and that she deserved to be free.
That's why you compromised and agreed to the lesser charge?
Yes, because I didn't want her to walk.
In Tennessee, 33-year-old Mary Winkler is awaiting sentencing after being found guilty of killing her preacher husband.
Mary, how you feeling?
On June 8, 2007, everyone gathered in the courtroom for Mary's sentencing as she pled for mercy.
I think of Matthew every day in the guild, and I'll always miss him and love him. There were bad times, but there were good times, and I wish I could have that good Matthew and that we could live together forever.
If I were Matthew's parents, that statement would have felt like a kick in the teeth. It was so disregarding of their feelings on facing this reality.
Matthew was a wonderful person. He loved life.
He loved his family. He loved the Lord God with all of his heart and soul and mind. The monster that you have painted for the world to see, I don't think that monster existed. There's been no remorse from you. You've never told your girls you're sorry. Don't you think you at least owe them that? You've never told us you're sorry. I think you at least owe us that.
I can understand why a mother would more than ask that. And I would think a mother, as in Mary, would also want to apologize. The damage is done.
When the judge handed down the sentence, you could have heard a pin drop in that room.
The defendant is hereby sentenced to a term of 3 years. Her sentence is to be served in split confinement with 210 days of incarceration, with appropriate credit to be given.
With time served, Mary Winkler spent only 1 more week in jail in this very cell, and then 60 days in a mental health facility. To her supporters, it was a clear victory, but to others, it was nothing more than a slap on the wrist.
People were very shocked by that sentence and really couldn't believe it.
Matthew's parents had to feel betrayed by the system. They had to feel as if the jury had been played.
When you found out that she was going to get such a short sentence, what went through your mind?
I was heartbroken. Actually, I felt like I had failed. I felt like I had failed, like I didn't do my part, that I had let her off.
I believe she should have served more time, but we did what we did because that was all we could do.
After the trial, the town of Selma remained divided over whether Mary really got justice. Meanwhile, for Mary, the saga isn't over.
After the sentencing, the public thought, okay, that's it. They've heard everything, but it was not.
She wasn't finished talking. She wanted to tell her story to everyone.
Hey.
Hi, Oprah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Tell me why you wanted to have this conversation today.
After serving an additional 7 days in jail, Mary Winkler finished out the remainder of her sentence at an undisclosed mental health facility. And while there, she had a visitor on the weekends. Turns out, while she had been working at the dry cleaners, she struck up a relationship with her boss's brother. His name? Darryl Pillow.
I saw interest in Mary, and I thought Mary saw interest in me.
Darryl Pillow says sparks flew. It was instant attraction when he first met Mary at his brother's dry cleaners.
I was attracted to Mary. I mean, we do have a lot in common. You know, we laugh, we got the same hobbies. It felt very normal. It felt like it was meant to be, you know, that we was meant to be together. I know the first time that we sat on the couch and I hugged her and she said, oh, this is, you know, I missed this, you know, and that's what she needed. She needed somebody to hold her and hug her.
I remember hearing that she may have had a new acquaintance.
She was just a very sweet girl. I mean, it felt normal to be with Mary. Now, I never felt scared or threatened. Our relationship was we had an adult relationship.
Even though Mary was in a mental health facility, Darryl says he would come to visit her on weekends. The two were able to get closer, and he says they even got to the point where they discussed marriage.
We kind of joked around about it, you know, but it wasn't nothing serious. It's not like we set a date or you know, maybe years down the road it may happen. I don't know. But you know, the option's there.
But soon after Mary was released from the facility, Darryl says she ended things with him.
She just said, Darryl, I've got to be single right now. And I said, that's fine. She needs to be focused on her children, and that's where she's at right now. She is focused on her children.
Since her arrest, even though she had visitation rights, Mary's 3 daughters had been living with Matthew's parents, Diane and Dan Winkler.
But once back in McMinnville and now living with friends, Mary is on a mission to get those 3 girls back.
Mary's got a long way to go, but she's on her road. She's on the way. She's gonna make it. Since she's gotten back home, the Mary that we came to know and love, the grinning, the cutting up, you know, she's back.
Mary was determined to fight, and one way she could do that was by being the perfect parolee.
How do you think her time in jail impacted her life?
Well, she had time to think about what happened, I'm sure, and reflect on what she had done, and I'm sure she wanted to get out so she'd get back with her children as soon as possible. Her children were very important to her.
She lives and breathes every day for those girls. What she wants to do is get on with her life, let people leave her alone, get her girls back, and mourn her husband. That's her words.
Now back home, the once shy and demure former preacher's wife, who wanted a quiet life, raised eyebrows again after making one of her first stops the Oprah Winfrey Show, telling Oprah she hoped by speaking out, her story might help others.
An Oprah exclusive. For the first time, Mary Winkler, the wife who killed her pastor husband.
Mary Winkler appeared on Oprah just as she appeared on the stand. Very soft-spoken, very meek and mild. And but I remember Oprah wasn't buying any of it. You know, Oprah didn't let her off the hook.
Was a shotgun in the baby's room?
No, we kept it in the closet. It's just, I can't, there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, imagine, it doesn't make sense to me either.
I know.
She kept prying and asking her and just telling her, okay, help me make sense of this.
The gun is aimed at him at some point. Do you remember that?
Well, no, because when I heard the boom, I just took out of there and took off running.
And then Mary explained to Oprah the importance of getting those girls back.
I'm their mother.
You killed their father.
I did not want any of this to happen.
Even though the girls had been living at Matthew's parents' home, the Winklers wanted to formalize it. They filed a lawsuit to adopt their granddaughters and terminate Mary's parental rights.
Mary Winkler looked happy and confident when she walked into the courthouse in Huntington for another showdown with her former in-laws over custody of her 3 daughters.
But there's still one more turn to come in Mary's roller coaster ride of a life.
Her life seems to be normal, except for one thing.
One more startling secret to reveal.
Something else had happened to Mary Winkler that was surprising, shocking.
Since her arrest, Mary Winkler has been locked in a custody battle with Matthew's parents. And finally, after months without her children, they reach an informal agreement out of court, giving Mary permission to take her 3 daughters back.
My girls are my girls and I'm their mother, and we were just put back together, and we've picked up where we were separated.
I know.
Come here, Emma.
After finally getting her children back, Mary Winkler sits down for one more exclusive interview with Janice Broach to reveal yet another setback in her life.
Tonight, Mary Winkler is back, and she has a secret.
I had found out that Mary had been diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis.
My right hand and my right foot were completely disabled, could not use. And so I was very fortunate that I have been able to come back to full capacity.
17 years after she shot her husband, Mary Winkler lives a quiet life.
But to this day, there are still lingering questions in Selmer about whether justice was served in her case.
I believe that she actually got away with murder of her husband. Justice was not served, in my opinion.
Was Mary Winkler a victim or a villain?
Both.
Did Mary get away with murder?
Yes, she did.
She's going to have to answer for what she did. It's not up to me to forgive her. What she did is between her and Matthew and his family and God.
As for Matthew's parents, this tragedy that befell their son is still painfully close to their hearts.
His father, Dan, can be seen giving a sermon in this Palm Beach Lakes Church of Christ video, posted on YouTube just last month.
18 years ago, trauma knocked on the front door of our house, and we lost a son. I live with that emptiness all of the time, and it's been almost 2 decades, but I remember the sound of his voice. And every time we sit down at a Christmas table as a family, there's an empty place.
A father still grieving. Our own John Quinones reached out to Mary Winkler at her home, but she told him she didn't want to talk about what happened all those years ago.
That's right, David. She said she's moved on and she's busy taking care of her 3 daughters. Those daughters are now 18, 24, and 26. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night. Tonight, it would terrify any parent, a shooting in a preschool parking lot.
David, I was in that exact location and also in the courthouse where a killer said an angel and a demon told him what to do. And all new 2020 begins right now.
Oh my God,
an unlikely killer, an unlikely victim.
this guy's bleeding to death out here.
Twists and turns.
Yeah, he had a hat on and it almost like a beard.
Bombshells galore. It was just stranger than fiction.
The shooter came across the parking lot and raised his arm, pow, 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 pow.
Initially, people have no idea what's happening, right? They think it's just some lone gunman.
This person was targeted for some reason.
A young father of 2 senselessly murdered, dropping his child off.
Everyone was scratching their heads. Why was Rusty Snyderman murdered?
After the shooting, the suspect took off in that minivan and sped off.
What did you notice right away about him?
His black beard didn't belong. I mean, it was just, I knew it was a fake beard.
It just didn't make sense to me. It just seemed too elaborate and too Hollywood.
There were some previous incidences that were very odd.
He's running, I think he has a gun in his back pocket, and now he's running away. I don't know who the hell he is, and I don't want him by my house.
And then all of a sudden, the entire investigation shifted.
That had to be pretty disturbing.
Looked over Rusty and I said, I'm going to get the justice for you. Hopefully get your revenge.
On a clear day with a bird's eye view, you can see all the way to Atlanta. It's big city problems in the distance. Here in Dunwoody, Georgia, crime and danger seem to be somebody else's problem. Until one November morning, this suburban bubble is about to burst with a bang.
It was a beautiful fall day right before Thanksgiving. People were running their morning errands. Parents were dropping their kids off to the preschool.
One of those parents is Rusty Snyderman, who's on his way back to his car after dropping off his 2-year-old son.
Witnesses told police that they saw a silver minivan pull up, a man hop out, walked up to Rusty, didn't say a word to him.
Walked up, he turned around, pow, 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 pow.
I heard a couple of loud pops and looked up and looked over and saw right in front of me shooting Rusty.
Shot him several times.
I mean, it was pretty much point blank range.
The barrel was either at or right at his skin when fired. There was actually soot deep into the wound from the projectile.
And then calmly and coolly walked back to his vehicle and took off.
It was almost surreal, the experience. There was no chaos or running or yelling or anything. He just walked back to his van. It didn't look like what I would think a murder would be.
They thought it was a movie. They were actually looking around for the cameras.
Everybody thinks they know what they would do. You don't.
Pickup County 911.
Somebody's been shot and killed.
Which way did it go?
He headed east, Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon Road?
Yeah, he had a hat on and it almost like a beard.
Was he black, white, Hispanic?
I can't tell. He might have been.
It came over radio that there was a shooting. There was one person down, unknown status, and we all just went.
Like a gunshot over here. Somebody records a video. A doctor who happens to be nearby performs CPR, and a teacher grabs the children to get them out of harm's way.
There were a lot of witnesses to this shooting. Everybody saw it happen. The shooter made no effort to conceal themselves.
Honestly, you know, when the call came out, I was shocked. In Dunwoody, you know, everybody's pretty nice and everybody helps each other. So for something like this to happen, it was just a shocker.
The community was absolutely scared. Again, it's not something that happens normally. There's not a lot of violent crime in that area at all.
This guy's bleeding to death out here.
The police and the ambulance are on their way.
He didn't look conscious to me. He looked like he was struggling and trying to, you know, there was some movement, but I knew that it wasn't good.
There was a lot of blood everywhere. There were obvious gunshots to the patient. There was no pulse, and he was unresponsive. But that does not mean that you don't work this patient, because there have been times where we've been able to save patients.
He was white, possibly Hispanic. I would say he's about 5'9", 5'10". He's got a baseball cap on. It's a silver Caravan, almost looks like a Dodge. He had a hat on. It looked like he had a beard and a silver caliber gun.
Let me know when the officer gets right there with the patient.
And then who? Everybody's doing that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we did notify surrounding agencies.
I started hearing rumblings about a shooting not far from where I live, probably about a 10-minute drive from my house. And that in and of itself was shocking because it's a very safe community.
Let's go now to Channel 2's Mike Pachinik with the latest on what he's learned. Mike.
At the time of Rusty Snyderman's murder, I was a reporter at WSB-TV in Atlanta.
I'm Mike Pachinik, Channel 2 Action News.
His murder happened that morning. I came in the afternoon and was assigned to go back to try to find people who knew Rusty, knew his family, try to get to the bottom of who he was and why somebody would want him murdered.
How did you first learn about the Snyderman shooting? It was in the news, obviously.
Yeah, it was all over the news. A husband is shot and killed right after he drops his child off.
This shooting has shaken the school and the community to its core.
The last thing you think about is dropping off your child at school and something like this happened.
It's very, 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 very scary to happen.
Tragic. Every parent is scared. Every parent who's got a young child in daycare is scared. They didn't know what the motive was. So it was big news in Atlanta.
To me, honestly, it looked like it was professional. It was just the calmness of it. It didn't seem like it was a crime of passion. It was just very cold and calculated.
The shooting did happen at close range. There was no indication that Rusty was going to do anything or was trying to attack the person. It was a purely one-sided shooting, and close range to me said it was personal.
Right now, they are out actively searching for the man that shot this father. Rusty Snyderman's car was parked right there where you see that orange spray paint.
Well, it looks like a hit. You know, happened in broad daylight with witnesses around.
I absolutely didn't believe at any point that it was a random shooting.
It was somebody that looked like targeted him on purpose.
In the time it takes to count to 4, the innocence of a schoolyard, backpacks, snacks, goodbyes, shrouded in gun smoke and now mystery.
The school and several of the businesses in this complex do have security cameras. Dunwoody police tell me right now they are actively looking at that video to see if they can get a better description of the suspect.
Initially, people have no idea what's happening, right? They think it's just some lone gunman?
No one could come up with a motive. Random shooting at a daycare center right after a child has been dropped off. This person was targeted for some reason, but nobody knew what that reason was.
Still ahead, the clue you couldn't miss. What did you notice right away about him?
Well, I noticed his black beard.
The gunman's less than brilliant disguise.
Didn't belong. I mean, it was just, I knew it was a fake beard.
Here we are now at Dunwoody Prep. You were here, what was it, 14 years ago, I guess it was. Former Detective Andrew Thompson takes me back to the scene of the crime, just outside Atlanta. You think the shooter was parked over here?
Yeah, witnesses had the shooter park over here. As Rusty came around this way, he came around the front of his car, and he turned to open the door. The shooter came across the parking lot and raised his arm, pow, 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 pow.
Rusty Snyderman had dropped off his child, and as he was exiting, he was shot multiple times by an unknown assailant who jumped in his vehicle and fled the scene.
This was a huge case in Atlanta, and especially since it happened in the parking lot of a preschool, you know, a young father of two senselessly murdered, dropping his child off.
Just shocked that that happened here.
This shooting has shaken the school and the community to its core.
I was just in disbelief. You know, you never expect murder to step into your life, and particularly somebody like Rusty. I not only didn't know of any enemies that Rusty had, I couldn't imagine him having an enemy because he was such a positive person.
It was my first homicide. I didn't really know what to expect when I came up, but I just clicked right into professional mode and remembered all the steps that I needed to take that I learned back in the academy.
You start organizing, you start putting things in motion for witnesses and evidence, but you do something unusual. You bend down to the victim.
Yeah, after I got everybody where I thought they should be and got the base information, I came back over and I looked over Rusty and I said, I'm gonna get the justice for you. I'm gonna get this guy and hopefully get your revenge. I wanted to assure him that I was going to do the best that I could to bring the killer to justice. And I said, have faith. And I went and started doing my job.
I was tasked with going back and trying to just dig into the family a little bit, find out who they were and where they worked, what sorts of things were important in their lives.
He had a very outgoing personality. He was very engaging. He was very funny. He was fun to be with.
Rusty always had a lot of friends. That goes to Rusty's personality. You know, Rusty would leave an indelible mark on people. He had a personality that always would, bring you in.
And tell me about the family and what you learned later on about them.
Rusty and Andrea started dating in college.
The two met at Indiana University at a retreat for Jewish students.
By all accounts, they had a fairy tale romance, and when they finished school, Rusty got an opportunity to get his MBA at Harvard.
They had lived together for 7 years.
They'd been together a long time before they got married, and she was just part of the family then.
They were a good team.
She presents very warm, gives you a huge embrace. So, yeah, I had a good feeling about them.
They had a good marriage. They had 2 young kids. They had a beautiful home. They had a wonderful life. They had a lake house where they spent their weekends.
I've never seen him happier than being a dad. He was a big kid at heart himself, and he just adored his kids.
He was so natural. He just naturally had the skill to connect with them, and he would sit on the floor and play with them. And not everyone has that natural ability, but he really did.
Rusty is getting a lot more time with the kids because Andrea has taken a demanding new job. There's lots of travel. Florida, Colorado, even to Europe.
She was feeling good about it. I think she liked it. I think she was challenged. It was a good change for their family, so I was happy for them.
Police begin to look, of course, at the family as they begin to investigate this case. What did they discover about the couple? Are they happy? Are there struggles?
There was no indication of any strife in the home life. They were your typical successful, upper middle class, hardworking couple.
Now investigators turn back to that security camera video of the bearded killer in the minivan.
The key point of evidence we had was the daycare has a camera there that overlooks the central parking lot. And that was the only visual that we had of the suspect's vehicle driving around once, then coming back around again.
It's a silver Caravan, almost looks like a Dodge. He had a hat on, it looked like he had a beard, and a silver caliber gun.
Witnesses told police that they saw a silver minivan pull up to the scene, and after the shooting, the suspect took off in that minivan and sped off.
Two odd things about that van. One, witnesses say the license plate was missing. And two, when detectives rewind, they see that same minivan cruising the parking lot an hour before the shooting. So that morning, you pull in right here?
Yeah.
Larry Minogue was dropping off his son that morning. It was about an hour before the shooting.
As I was pulling into the parking lot, I noticed a van going in front of the building.
What did you notice right away about him?
Well, I noticed his black beard, and I could tell, as far as how dark it was, that it didn't belong. I mean, it was just, I knew it was a fake beard.
Larry says he even scolded the man.
I just looked at him and said, "You don't belong here. You shouldn't be driving through this part of the parking lot at this hour."
Did he acknowledge you?
No.
Only later that morning does Larry realize that he'd come that close to a killer.
I hear it on the radio. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I think I saw that person.
That had to be pretty disturbing.
Well, it was, and then I just called the Dunwoody Police Department and they said, "Can you come by?"
Police release a sketch based on Larry's description. It's shown everywhere.
The thing that really struck me was they all noted that this was a really strange-looking beard on the suspect and that it looked fake.
Some people described it like an Abraham Lincoln beard.
Yeah, he had a hat on, and it almost like a beard.
A manhunt now underway for the bearded killer. And why was Rusty Snyderman calling 911 just a week before his murder? Was there an earlier attempt on his life?
He's running. I think he has a gun in his back pocket, and now he's running away. I don't know who the hell he is, and I don't want him by my house.
Everyone was scratching their heads. Why was Rusty Snyderman murdered?
They were really focused on chasing down any lead they got because at the time they had no credible information as to who had done this.
We got a lot of leads. Everybody was fielding phone calls for leads, and because you put something out like that, especially where the public is very interested, and you're going to get a lot of calls.
In fact, a detective from across the country calls to compare notes about his case involving the murder of a Jewish woman just 2 days before Rusty's killing.
One of the most prominent publicists to the stars, Ronnie Chasen, was murdered, shot behind the wheel of her Mercedes in Beverly Hills.
Investigators are working on the theory that this was a planned attack.
The detective from Beverly Hills, California, gave me a call, and he was working a case that also involved people from the Jewish community. And he thought it was worthwhile for him to give me a call to see if there might have been a connection.
I know I got a call from the sheriff of a local county, Putnam County, that had a couple that was killed at their lake house. And so he called to see if there was some kind of connection. Of course, you know, there was no connection. So it does bring out a lot of those kind of maybe similar cases that people are, you know, searching for a lead on their case.
Then there's the tip from a woman so convinced she spotted the man in the sketch that she follows him.
When police put out the picture of the minivan and the composite sketch of the shooter, a woman at a nearby grocery store thought she saw the killer and started taking pictures to try to help police catch this person.
According to police, the woman tails the man into the store and back out into the parking lot, secretly snapping photos with her phone.
And as it turned out, it was not the killer. He had an airtight alibi.
With any investigation, they always want to start by finding out whatever they can about the victim. And so in this case, they dug into where Rusty had worked, what sort of business ventures he was involved in.
We spoke to his business partners.
Some detectives thought the murder looked like the work of a hitman, a murder for hire, possibly related to one of Rusty's past jobs.
We also looked into his wealth management job that he had briefly. That was could be a great indicator as to a motive for it. You know, if you're a multimillionaire and you end up losing millions of dollars, that could really flip a switch in somebody and want to get revenge on you.
Police quickly realized that this was not a business deal gone bad. They had no evidence to show that Rusty owed anybody money or that he had mishandled anybody's finances, so they pretty much put that to bed.
It just didn't make sense to me. It just seemed too elaborate and too Hollywood, if you know. And Rusty's not the kind of guy that's going to get in any kind of trouble. No criminal history, no anything.
Then this puzzling revelation. In the weeks before he was killed, Rusty Snyderman had called the police for help, not once, but twice.
If they can have emergency 911, what's the address of the emergency?
There were some previous incidences that were very odd.
About a month before Rusty Snyderman was killed, something strange happened at his house.
My garage door suddenly opened. We were concerned there may be somebody in the garage or in the house. My wife and I are both upstairs and my kids are in bed.
They were panicking a little bit that somebody was trying to break into the house.
Okay, relax. There's nothing to freak out about. The police are here, dude.
Then, about a week before his murder, Rusty calls 911 again. This time, it's more serious.
There was another incident where Rusty was starting to leave his home to go about his day, and he saw somebody behind his air conditioner on the side of his house.
And he notices a gentleman laying down beside his house.
When he confronted the guy ran away down towards the end of the cul-de-sac.
He's running. I think he has a gun in his back pocket, and now he's running away. I don't know who the hell he is, and I don't want him by my house.
In the middle of that call, you can hear Rusty pausing to attend to his son.
I know, but I didn't get your water bottle. I'm sorry. He was wearing a hat and earmuffs, black mustache.
Odd, sure, but a lot of people own guns, and so that's not a direct indicator that the person was looking to kill Rusty.
Police respond to both calls and investigate, but no arrests are made.
It's another clue as part of our investigation, trying to determine, is that related to the fact that he was shot, or is it unrelated? You know, we don't know at that particular point in time.
About a month after the murder, investigators catch a break, uncovering the biggest clue in this entire investigation. A 4,000-pound clue, essentially.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest clue they had in terms of figuring out who did this.
And that's, you know, probably, as far as leads go, our top lead.
And then all of a sudden, the entire investigation shifted.
When they hit on that, that ended up being a goldmine for them.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but Police Chief Billy Grogan and his team will settle for just one clue hidden in those crime scene photos. Anything that leads to the man in the sketch, the black-bearded killer who shot Rusty Snyderman and then escaped in a silver minivan.
Any sort of serious crime like this, you know, you start with the closest people to the victim and work your way out.
Investigators speak with Rusty Snyderman's wife, Andrea, several times.
Do you know anybody that drives a silver minivan?
No, I don't know anyone else that owns a silver minivan.
When they begin looking into this case, police talk to Andrea. What do they learn from her?
Andrea is totally baffled. She doesn't know who would kill her husband, why her husband would be killed. She's very distraught.
So the day after the shooting, Detective Thompson is asking Andrea to try to think of anybody who would have done this. Maybe an enemy of her husband? Somebody with a romantic interest in her?
Has there been anybody recently, when I say recently, within the past year, that has expressed an interest in you?
Yes.
Who?
My boss.
Your boss?
Yes.
Andrea says her boss had made a pass at her and that she turned him down, and that was that.
This is not an individual that would do something like this.
In a follow-up interview the next week, Detective Thompson wants more details.
Let's talk about your boss.
Okay.
How did he approach you with expressing an interest?
We travel for business together, and we were at dinner, and he said, you know, he thinks I'm fantastic, would love to have a relationship with me, but knows that that's probably unlikely, and that was sort of, I mean...
So it was a very polite...
Very.
Come on.
He really respected me as a person.
Andrea tells him that she and her boss remained on good terms, that they continued to work closely together.
We're close friends, he and I. Even once he said that, and I said no, I mean, we work together a lot, travel together a lot. I enjoy I admire him as a professional. I enjoy learning from him.
As for the idea of her husband cheating on her, according to Andrea, it was laughable.
He doesn't have time to go to the bathroom, let alone have an affair. And he loved me so much and made that clear 1,000,000 times a day. So I laugh because it's
so absurd.
It's absurdly ridiculous.
Detectives now turn back to those ghostly security camera images, the killer's minivan. There's surveillance video that reveals a silver minivan.
Yes.
A 4,000-pound clue, essentially.
Yeah.
The van was the only solid evidence I had of the suspect. I looked at that video so many hours on so many days on my computer just trying to find the fingerprint on that van that'll make it stand out.
How do they go about tracking down this van?
Well, we called the manufacturers of just about every minivan that was, looked similar.
First I went to Ford, I went to Dodge, I went to Honda. The last one I went to, which was a recommendation from one of our patrol officers, was Kia. But, I hadn't thought about Kia. So I went to the Kia dealership.
It was a 2011 Kia Sedona minivan.
The 2011 model of that Kia Sedona minivan had only recently become available.
There was right around 1,000 or so in the entire country. So that was a relief.
And it gets better. The number of 2011 Kia Sedonas sold in Georgia at the time is just a lucky 13.
We're calling every single person that owned one of these vans that is registered to. Everybody has an alibi. Nobody's in Atlanta, nobody's in Dunwoody.
So detectives go back to that videotape. They get it enhanced and they play it on a big screen TV.
And the first time I played it, the first time I saw this were 2 stickers on the front windshield that were offset from each other. That was my fingerprint. So now I had to figure out, what the hell are those stickers?
And there was a sticker in the window, and it looked like it possibly could be from a rental vehicle.
Turns out that Kia Sedonas were a very popular enterprise rental vehicle. And so when they hit on that, that ended up being a goldmine for them.
So it was this particular rental car company that had this specific vehicle in their fleet.
This leads to another important discovery. By chance, the barcode stickers on the suspect's van had been applied incorrectly. They were offset differently than stickers on other enterprise vehicles.
So they ended up getting the list of all of the 2011 Kia Sedona minivans that were rented on that date and the names of all of the people who had them rented. When they went to the actual locations to look at them, they were able to figure out which van it was based on those stickers because they weren't properly placed. They were like ever so slightly off instead of being parallel across the windshield.
I asked my rental car company contact, hey, when you have this year, make, model vehicle come into any of your lots, let me know. He said, absolutely. And he gave me a call one day, hey, we have a vehicle that might be what you're looking for up in this lot in North Georgia.
Detectives find the windshield stickers match those on the van at the crime scene. And then, bingo. A search of the minivan turns up synthetic hairs, just like those from a costume beard.
Beard fiber would be good evidence because we had several witnesses who said it looked like the suspect was wearing a fake beard.
Police now have the getaway car driven by Rusty Snyderman's killer, and better, they have the name of the person who rented the vehicle. A man by the name of Hemi Newman.
Who had the van on that day? Hemi Newman. I think we found our guy. Don't know why yet, but we found our guy.
Detectives now have their suspect right where they want him, in their interrogation room.
It's as if I'm a suspect. You're a suspect? Are you a suspect?
The man in the minivan, the man suspected of shooting Rusty Snyderman, is Hemi Newman. It's a name that doesn't ring a bell with police at first.
Now, we're hot on the trail of Hemi Newman. Now, we had to find him. We had to talk to him, see what he wanted to say.
And detectives do what anybody else might do.
I Googled his name and found his LinkedIn resume.
Surprisingly, the suspect, Hemi Newman, is a big executive at GE in nearby Marietta. Then lead detective Thompson gets a call from his bosses.
It's like, hey, we have Hemi. We're going back to the precinct. Meet us there. Great. So I rushed back to the precinct. By the time I got back, the sergeant and lieutenant were already in the interview room talking to Hemi.
Not many suspects bring an iPad to an interrogation room, but this one did.
You okay?
What?
You all right?
It's unnerving to be in a room like this.
At the time, the Dunwoody Police Department is in an office tower, the kind of building where ordinarily an executive might feel right at home.
I want to get into the incident with Rusty on that day, November 18th.
You don't expect an executive with GE to be in our interview room, being interviewed about a homicide, but yet he was.
Listen, I'm going to talk to you about the day of the shooting, but as everybody else, I'm going to read you your rights on it, your Miranda rights.
Do I have to worry?
I don't think so. I'm not worried.
Newman isn't under arrest. He's there voluntarily. But when police read him his rights, he hesitates.
You understand?
Do I need a lawyer?
Do you need a lawyer?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
This is what you need to ask yourself. These questions, do you feel like asking you questions about Rusty?
No, not at all, but you're reading me this, and I've never been in a situation like this.
The two detectives that were in there, him and another one, you know, were obviously playing off each other, trying to get what they could out of Hemi Newman.
In the beginning, you know, we wanted to see why he had the van.
I mean, this is not rocket science. You're a smart guy. You're not signing away your mortgage.
No, I'm not signing away my mortgage, but this is very uncomfortable.
You're in the business world. You see papers all the time.
I know, but you read Miranda rights, and it seems like it's as if I'm a suspect.
I know you're a suspect. Are you a suspect?
I don't think I need to be a suspect. I shouldn't be a suspect. There's no reason why I should be a suspect, but you're reading me my rights.
He was very calm, unusually calm.
I want to know what happened on the 18th. I got to know.
Okay, and I was at work.
I think he was trying to find out what we knew as much as we were trying to find out what he knew.
Do you know why I'm calling you? For help.
I know.
So you answered my call.
Back.
Right, to help.
Okay. But
and
getting rid of your Miranda rights isn't help. It's saying we can hold anything against you, and I don't know.
Initially, it's, you know, gathering a lot of information, but then it gets into the whole crux of the matter, and, you know, he's not admitting anything, denying it.
Hemi, this is what we got. We got that van on video the day Rusty shot. And I swear, the more I look at you, the more I see the person inside that van. I'm giving you every opportunity, man. I don't think things should have happened that way. You've got a heart, you've got a soul, man. You're not a criminal. Things just go wrong.
Executives are used to long meetings, but not like this one. A tiny room, one table, two detectives, a fuzzy video camera. It goes on for 5 hours.
You're here because that van was there. We know it's where. It was over there where Rusty got shot. Listen, look at me and don't doubt me. I'm telling you what happened. You got to admit to yourself what happened with that van. I'm telling you, you were there when Rusty got shot. Now, Hemi, you were there. I know you were. Hemi.
How do you know I was there?
Because it's on video. That van is on the video. The van was there. I've got it on video. You're at the parking lot. You're there with Rusty. The question is, why'd you shoot him? Why did it have to get done that way?
One investigator leaves the room and then comes back with photos of that rented minivan caught on camera at the crime scene.
This is the van, okay? And that's your van.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm telling you that
Hemi, look me.
I'm not there.
As the interview went on, he was looking more and more guilty.
You're telling me you didn't do this? Hemi.
I
Hemi Newman admits that he had rented a 2011 Kia Sedona on November 18th, but he denies that he drove it to the daycare and murdered Rusty Snyderman.
Are you prepared to tell me now you're not the guy? Because you haven't said that yet. All afternoon, you have not said, I did not damn do it.
You sit here and crowd me, you come up with all this stuff, you're accusing me of something, and it was obvious from the beginning, because I knew you guys were talking about the car, that you're somehow implicating me in this whole thing.
Newman says he's got an alibi, that he was at work at GE the morning Rusty was murdered. But investigators aren't buying it.
At that point, we had all the evidence we needed to place him in the minivan, say that nobody else drove the minivan. I went out and got the arrest warrant for Hemi Newman.
Go ahead and stand up for me. You've been explained to what's taking place tonight. You've been placed under arrest for the murder of Mr. Snyderman.
Yes.
At the same time, while we were finishing the interview, we were confident we had our guy, and we had a whole lot more work to do.
No, it's far from close. You need a probable cause to make an arrest. You need a lot more to get a conviction.
Police say they've got the man who shot Rusty Snyderman, but they still don't know why, what, or who could drive a man like Hemi Newman to kill.
The big question that hung over all of this is what could drive someone to commit murder?
It was becoming more and more clear that there was a lot more to the story.
You've been placed under arrest for the murder of Mr. Snyder.
Why would a late 50s executive wake up one day and kill somebody? Put a wig on and gun somebody down in a parking lot?
A young father of two senselessly murdered, dropping his child off.
This was national attention. You come back to a case that now is swarming.
This is what he did.
The man wanted someone else's wife, so he killed her husband.
The plan included me being there for Andrea after the fact.
He got caught, and all of a sudden he's insane.
I see dead people. They're telling me to kill people.
What was that all about? What was this description of a demon and an angel?
A demon that sounded like Barry White and an angel that sounded like Olivia Newton-John told him to do this? Like, come on.
We're talking about a self-proclaimed delusional individual who killed my husband.
How does she come across?
Not like a grieving widow.
Andrea Snyder, adulterer, liar, and master manipulator.
Where is the evidence that she was a party to the murder of her husband?
When investigators arrest Hemi Newman for gunning down Rusty Snyderman in this parking lot, the question so many are asking is why would a GE executive want to murder a father of two?
He got shot for one of three: greed, revenge, or lust.
Detectives think they've got their person, but they're searching for which of these age-old motives may have driven Hemi Newman to kill. And they discovered a curious connection between him and Rusty Snyderman's wife, Andrea.
What's your relationship with Andrea?
Andrea and I are friends.
Hemi Newman was Andrea Snyderman's boss.
That same boss that Andrea had mentioned to investigators.
How did he approach you with expressing an interest?
He said, he thinks I'm fantastic, would love to have a relationship with me, but knows that that's probably unlikely.
You can only imagine our surprise, when we have the paperwork from the Enterprise and Google your name, and you're her boss.
During the interrogation with police, they pressed him on the nature of his relationship with Andrea Snyderman.
I find her attractive, and I indicated that to her. Then I said, I'd like to continue to develop the relationship. And she basically said, no, I'm committed to Rusty, and that ain't gonna happen.
They began to learn that Hemi Newman's marital life was not great. In fact, at the time of the shooting, he had moved out of his home.
Problems in his marriage and Newman's attraction to Andrea Snyderman. All of this, and a potential motive for Rusty's murder, begins to take shape for police.
Jealousy gets in the heart. Envy takes over. The mind starts working. And that life looks a hell of a lot better than mine right now.
Hemi Newman may have confessed to his feelings for Andrea Snyderman, but when it comes to a confession about his connection to the shooting, that's a different story.
I was not there. I did not pull the trigger on the gun just like Rusty Snyder.
At the end of the interview, our detectives arrested Hemi Newman.
You're arresting him?
That's what I'm saying.
After his arrest, Newman pleads not guilty to a charge of malice murder.
Myself and a detective went to Andrea's house to deliver the news that we had arrested the person who killed her husband.
We made an arrest on the case.
Are you serious?
We have.
Do you have the person in custody?
That's all I see. Anything else?
Who is it?
It's your boss.
Are you kidding me? Please, no.
What did I tell you, man?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The Dunwoody police called me and said, we've made an arrest. And so I said, who? As soon as I knew his name, it just made my skin crawl.
The murder trial for Hemi Newman, the man accused of murdering a father outside his child's daycare center in Dunwoody, is moving fast on this very first day.
All eyes are now on courtroom 5D here in the DeKalb County Courthouse as Hemi Newman's trial is about to begin. But before opening statements, a big surprise. Newman now admits that he killed Rusty Snyderman, but says he's not guilty because he was mentally ill when he committed the crime.
All right.
All right, you may be seated. The state may proceed with his opening statement.
Boil it down to a sentence. The man wanted someone else's wife, so he killed her husband. He got caught. And all of a sudden, he's insane.
At this point in time, the defense will have an opportunity to give you their opening statement.
This case is not about what happened. We know what happened. This case is about why. Hemi was like a puppy in love. He felt that he and Andrea were like soul mates.
Even though Hemi Newman has now admitted to firing the gun that killed Rusty Snyderman, prosecutors still need to lay out their case. So they begin by tracking his movements the day of the shooting, beginning with his morning at GE before sunrise.
So he's up at his office at 5:30 something, turns on his computer, does a few things, and without using the elevator, exits. Defendant used the stairs and went out an unmanned back door. The cameras in the employee parking garage, they caught the defendant leaving in the silver Sedona Kia van.
Prosecutors argue that just 2 hours after Hemi Newman shot and killed Rusty Snyderman, he fills up his rental car with gas, returns it, and then heads back to work in his own car.
We even got video of him dressed the same as he arrived that morning.
Chris Lang, CHRI.
Then prosecutors call Chris Lang to the stand. He was in the parking lot that morning, and in a dramatic display, DA Robert James demonstrates how Snyderman was shot.
There's a person that just comes out of nowhere and shoots him several times.
If you're laying on your stomach, okay, with your head towards me, okay. From where you are there, the shooter would have been right here.
We never did find the weapon that was used, but I guess we had the next best thing.
Say your spelling name for the record.
My name is Jan Da Silva.
Jan Da Silva was important in the trial as well.
Yeah, Jan was able to connect the dots because we could show that it looks like he committed the murder, but we didn't have a murder weapon.
Can you tell us where you actually listed the gun?
It was a website.
Mr. Da Silva said he'd sold a Bersa 40 caliber Thunder pistol. I showed him the lineup and he immediately identified Hemi Newman as the person he sold the gun to.
Do you know who the person was that contacted you?
Yes, sir.
What was his name?
Hemi Newman.
I asked him, do you still have the test fire casing that comes with the gun when they sell it to you?
Typically, after somebody buys a gun, it comes with what's called a test fire casing, a spent bullet that essentially proves that the gun has been tested and works properly. Jan Da Silva said he actually had given that casing to his girlfriend, and luckily for investigators, she still had it. Prosecutors say that souvenir shell casing matches the bullet casings found at the crime scene, linking the gun to the murder.
What would have been about a week after he sold the gun to Hemi, Hemi came back up to the restaurant where Jan Da Silva was working as a valet.
He started off by saying, don't ever have a mistress.
Don't ever have a mistress?
Yes, sir.
And Newman tells Jan Da Silva something else about that gun he'd recently sold him.
He told me he just tossed it on the Lake Lanier, and that it was okay because he made sure that it was tossed somewhere where nobody can find it.
What does this all begin to tell them about Hemi Newman?
This was a massive cover-up.
All right, Mr. Deputy, we're in recess till 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
A well-planned cover-up and proof, according to prosecutors, that Hemi Newman was very much in his right mind when he planned this murder. But now his trial is about to take a truly bizarre turn, one that includes some of the world's most famous musical names.
To the latest twist in the so-called daycare murder trial, a Georgia man accused of gunning down his romantic rival.
Tell me how intense this was. This was national attention.
It's the most intense case I've ever been involved with, and I've tried high-profile cases.
Bring in my jury, please.
The prosecution painted Hemi Newman as a lying, cheating man who was faking his mental illness, who wanted Rusty Snyderman out of the picture so that he could marry Andrea Snyderman, take their money and her children, and ride off into the sunset.
Hemi was broke. All those things came out in his interrogation. He was unhappy in his relationship with his wife.
You have all these expenses, and we have no money. I told my wife, I said, we don't have any money. We're broke.
The defense, meantime, painted a picture of a troubled man with undiagnosed bipolar disorder who had a traumatic childhood.
The answer of why in this case, it actually begins with Hemi's father.
His father was a concentration camp survivor. Very difficult man, very distant man, not very loving. Our belief was because of his bipolar disorder, he didn't have the capacity to know right from wrong at the time of the shooting of Rusty Snyderman.
To counter that argument, the state shows jurors videos of 2 different evaluations of Hemi Newman with a court-appointed psychiatrist.
What I've been told that I need to do, and that is that Rusty needed to die.
And this is where the trial takes a truly bizarre turn.
During the summer of 2010, the defendant claims that he was visited by a 6-foot dark demon. Also, he claims a 6-foot bright white angel came to him.
Is it a low voice, a high voice? It's a deep voice. Almost like a very white.
That's right. According to
understand what he was saying.
What was that all about?
There are essentially 2 ways you can be acquitted if you commit a crime and you claim that you're insane. One way is what we call the right from wrong test, that you were so far gone that you don't understand the difference between right and wrong. The other way, which was the centerpiece of this trial, is that you were suffering from a delusion that compelled you to do the act.
When he comes, I think he's real. Okay.
Do you think he's real now? I mean, what do you think he is?
Now, I'm talking to you and sort of analyzing it.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Hemi Newman's defense says that part of his psychosis was a belief that Rusty Snyderman's children were actually his, and that he needed to kill Rusty to protect them.
The plan included me being there for Andrea after the fact.
Okay.
It wasn't only killing Rusty, but also the protection and being there for the children.
Hemi's goal in shooting Rusty was to save Rusty's children from the same kind of torment that he himself experienced as a child. He thought he was doing the right thing by killing Rusty to save his children.
And during those recorded interviews, Newman makes some surprising allegations about his relationship with Andrea.
We kissed, very briefly, it was just a very brief kiss. That was it. And then I told her, I said, "We're gonna regret this."
Newman also discusses a business trip he says he took with Andrea, where he claims they ended up alone in a hotel room watching a movie together.
It was already pretty late. She put on her pajamas, I put on my pajamas, and we decided to watch the movie in bed. And we became intimate. And
You had intercourse?
no. And then I went back to my bed.
Andrea denies this ever happened, and Hemi Newman continues to maintain that he and Andrea never had a sexual relationship. But prosecutors think there could have been another motive: money.
Rusty Snyderman had a couple $1 million life insurance policy that really became a focal point for investigators.
He wanted Rusty's life, and he wanted Rusty's wife. He wanted the money because they're wealthy. The house was paid for. I think the house at the time was worth almost $1 million.
State calls Andrea Snyderman, Judge.
It's becoming clear that at this trial, there's one person everybody wants to hear from.
Do you have any idea why the defendant would have these feelings toward you?
I think I'm a pretty nice person.
And when Andrea Snyderman takes the witness stand, it's a very hot seat.
Do you know why Mr. Newman would have...
Yeah.
Did that happen?
Did what happen?
Did you wake up together in Denver, in Tahoe?
No.
Even so, Andrea testifies that when she and her boss traveled together, she allowed him into her hotel rooms 2 times. But she says that was before she realized Newman was stalking her.
Did he stalk you from inside your own room?
Stalking can take on many different meanings.
So that's a yes.
He was there to spend time with me,
In
evidently.
your room? In your room?
Yeah, he did not share a room with me. Was he in my room? He might have been for a little while, but didn't share a room with me.
And whether Andrea recognized it or not, it seemed that Newman's behavior was becoming more and more unpredictable. Remember that 911 call Rusty made to police about a strange man lurking outside his home?
I don't know who the hell he is, and I don't want him by my house.
Turns out that was Hemi Newman, an admission he eventually made during one of his mental health evaluations.
I told Hemi, I told like 6 other people also what happened on the side of my house, because it was bizarre and scary.
Normally, when you're called as a prosecution witness, you're there to help their case. They treat you nicely. They treated her as a hostile witness from the get-go.
I had no choice but to continue my career and my job.
Andrea Snyderman was defiant because both sides were coming at her, full bore.
The stalker that you've now testified about, you picked him up at the airport.
Yep.
You flew home with him.
That's correct.
You changed seats to sit next to him.
That's how we always traveled.
In one of the emails, she talks to Hemi about feeling like she's betrayed her family and expressing remorse over actions.
I turn to the second page of that email.
Yep.
Hemi Newman says, "Please never forget how much I love you." And how did you respond?
I know, but so do other people. I betrayed them all. I'm not trying to deal with that for now, but my burden, not yours.
What happened in Greenville, man?
We were holding each other's hands, and that's it. It may sound worse than it is, but to me, that was a betrayal.
So you're repenting in the email, at least, from holding his hand.
Yep.
She was pushing back on these allegations, and she wanted people to know unequivocally, I had nothing to do with this, I didn't have an affair, I didn't betray my husband, certainly didn't want him dead.
Do you know why Mr. Newman would have emailed a friend that you finally gave in?
No, I don't. We're talking about a self-proclaimed delusional individual who killed my husband. No, I don't question anything that he sent to anyone.
Here you have this widow of the victim adamantly saying that something did not happen, and yet both sides, the attorneys, were arguing that it did.
One witness after another takes the stand to testify about what they claim was the nature of the relationship between Hemi Newman and Andrea Snyderman. The jury even hears from a bartender in South Carolina who recalls serving the pair.
What stood out most was that he kept spinning her around to the salsa music. I know at one point she kind of was dancing for him. He pulled her back, groped her. They were groping each other, I know, because I kind of turned away.
At any time did you see the parties kiss?
Yes, I did.
How many times did they kiss?
I would say about 3 times.
Andrea is also asked about this trip, but says she remembers certain details differently.
We had some drinks at the bar, maybe 1, 2.
Did you dance?
I got onto the dance floor myself.
Did you dance with the defendant?
He came to join, And there was a time where he reached out his hand and twirled me around, and that's it.
Well, did you kiss him or did he kiss you?
No. No.
Looking at her testimony, it was sort of hard to remember who was on trial.
Yeah.
Whether it was Andrea Snyderman or Hemi Newman.
Yeah.
You all went after her, and the defense went after her.
Yes. Yeah. We had to, because we had to establish motive.
How does she come across to the jury?
Not like a grieving widow. Dishonest, disingenuous, a liar.
And there's something else that stands out for prosecutors, something they see as a discrepancy in Andrea's story about the day Rusty was shot.
Andrea Snyderman testified she didn't know Rusty had been shot until she got to the hospital.
At the time you called Don Snyderman, at that time, did you know what had happened to Rusty?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know what happened to Rusty until I got to the emergency room.
Okay.
No one told me what happened to Rusty.
Rusty's own father and one of her friends testified that she called them to say that Rusty had been shot.
She called and said Rusty had been shot. She was so sorry, and that she was going to Dunwoody Prep to find out what had happened.
And are you sure that she told you that Rusty had been shot?
Yes, sir.
She immediately screaming to me that Rusty had been shot and she didn't know if he was dead or alive.
So many are asking, is the grieving widow on her way to becoming a criminal defendant?
It's clear to me that Andrea is covered in Rusty's blood.
Everybody was wondering, what's next with Andrea?
Dramatic closing arguments in the daycare murder trial.
Just what motivated Hemi Newman to kill a man outside of that Georgia daycare depends on who you believe.
The murder trial for Hemi Newman is moving fast.
The jury could have this case as early as tomorrow afternoon.
As prosecutors and defense lawyers begin final arguments in the case against Hemi Newman, the two sides have one thing in common. They're scathing accusations against Andrea Snyderman.
Both sides claimed that she was an evil woman who played a role in her husband's death.
Either the angel and the demon were talking to Hemi and telling Hemi to kill Rusty, or the demon that he was cheating with.
The gun, in this case, was in Hemi's hand. But the trigger, I respectfully suggest, was pulled by Andrea Snyderman.
You had the defense team saying that she knew full well that Hemi Newman had mental illness, and she was sort of pushing him to do this. Even if she didn't expressly say, go kill my husband, her actions led him to do that.
Adulterer, liar, and master manipulator.
They were laying it all at her feet.
Yes. Our theories were very, very close. They were saying she led him all the way up to it, but didn't necessarily plan it. And we were saying, yeah, she was the motive for it, but we believe she perhaps had something to do with it as well.
Hemi didn't hide his crime from Andrea because Andrea already knew.
As soon as this murder had taken place, she called Hemi Newman. She calls Hemi multiple times. On her way to the hospital, we thought that that was extremely odd behavior.
She told everybody that would listen that Rusty's been shot, but yet she wasn't told until she got to that hospital 2 hours later. The only way she would know that is if he told her.
Andrea says she called her boss for more innocent reasons, to tell him that something had happened to Rusty and that she'd left the office.
Rusty deserved to be treated with some respect and dignity. He did not deserve to be shot down in the street like some stray dog.
Robert James was forceful, he was loud, he would point.
This is what he did!
He was putting on a show, saying, no, he's lying about this mental illness. This was an affair. They both wanted him out of the picture.
They would have us believe that he's insane because he's having a good time at the club. And Andrea's doing this dance for him, and she's, and they're groping and they're grinding and they're getting it on and they're kissing and hugging. He's having an affair. He's about to go back to the room and do the horizontal mumbo. What man in America wouldn't be like, whoa, I'm about to have sex, it's great. Of course he's having a good time. If that makes him insane, then half the men walking down the street are insane.
Nobody is insane that plans a murder this way in the cover-up.
He knew he was wrong, and that makes him guilty, that makes him guilty, that makes him guilty all day, every day, because he is sane and he knew the difference between right and wrong.
Any minute now, Judge Gregory Adams should bring the jury in for that verdict. There was never any question that he was going to be found guilty of something because he admitted to shooting Rusty Snyderman. The question was, would he be found guilty but mentally ill or not guilty by reason of insanity?
Would he be sentenced to prison or to a mental hospital?
Deputy Moore, bring in the jury.
After deliberating for 8 hours, the jury is back with a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant as to count 1, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
We were devastated because he still goes into the prison system instead of a mental hospital.
Just come up here, Mr. Newman.
He had not testified at trial, and I think he wanted to be heard.
Your Honor, I prepared this statement to express my sense of loss for the death of Rusty Snyderman. I'm so sorry for their loss.
He apologized to his own, family, his children.
It is also a tragedy for countless family and friends who saw a person they loved, admired, and respected, who saw him arrested and shamed.
He talked about himself.
It was sort of all about him. Kind of felt like, woe was me, I'm sorry I got caught.
Ultimately, the judge sentenced Hemi Newman to life without parole. Throughout this case, Rusty Snyderman's family, specifically his brother Steve, were at the forefront. He was kind of the family spokesperson, and he didn't mince his words.
It's clear to me that Andrea is covered in Rusty's blood. We'll have no peace until everyone involved in Rusty's death is held accountable for their actions.
Andrea Snyderman releases a statement saying she was, quote, grateful for and relieved by the verdict, and describing her husband as an amazing man.
Everybody was wondering, what's next with Andrea? She took the stand in that bombastic way. Everybody thought that she had something to do with this. The question was, would police and prosecutors go after her? And about 5 months later, we got our answer.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jovita Moore.
I'm Justin Farmer, and officers arrested Andrea Snyderman today at her family's home in Putnam County.
As soon as that indictment came down, those marshals pulled Andrea Snyderman out of her parents' lake house and hauled her off to jail.
She is facing charges, including the murder of her husband, Rusty Snyderman.
In layman's terms, if you help, you can be charged like the person that did it.
After Andrea's arrest, the jury foreperson in Hemi Newman's trial speaks out.
She was very angry when she was on the stand, and I thought, there's something. She really is hiding something here.
We don't know how she's involved, but she's involved. And we need to know, how can we have any peace when we don't know the truth?
But what can the prosecution prove?
Lies throughout the investigation and throughout the trial.
Then a bombshell development in Andrea's case before her trial even begins.
When the indictment itself came out and charged Andrea with malice murder, a lot of people were surprised.
I always had empathy for her, but at the same time, there were all of these unanswered questions. And so, those unanswered questions you want answers to.
You hit her with an array of charges.
Correct. We charged her with murder, obstruction, false statements, perjury.
Are you thinking that you're going to be able to put her behind bars for possibly life as well?
Yeah. I have some very strong circumstantial evidence, right? She's calling the murderer, who she happens to be having an affair with, moments after she finds out that her husband is shot. And then the night before the murder, there was a search on the computer for death benefits. The question is, do we have enough evidence that we can go from she probably had something to do with it to she did have something to do with it?
Where is the evidence that she was a party to the murder of her husband? All you have is that she may have lied about having an affair. That doesn't mean she had anything to do with her husband being murdered.
Indictments are built on solid foundations of evidence, and this one will fall like a pillar of salt.
After 3 weeks in jail, Andrea Snyderman is released on bail and pleads not guilty to all charges.
Anything you want to say just about how much you're looking forward to seeing your children?
The judge put her under house arrest. She couldn't even take her children to school.
On the eve of her murder trial, nearly a year after she was arrested, Andrea Snyderman's in court when the DA drops a bombshell.
I'm standing before the court, standing before millions of people perhaps, asking for the court to dismiss a case right before trial.
Robert James, the DA, had to go in front of the judge and admit that he did not have enough evidence to proceed with a murder case against Andrea Snyderman.
I believe that it would be unjust and unethical to go forward on a charge that I am not 100% sure someone is guilty of.
That can't look good for your office, though.
Oh, it looked terrible.
How hard was that for you, and how often does that happen?
It doesn't happen very often. If you say that the prosecutor is a minister of justice, then you have to own that it's not what you know, quite frankly, it's what you can prove.
Murder charges against Andrea may have been dropped.
Mr. Deputy, bring in the jurors.
But in August of 2013, prosecutors moved forward with her other charges, including lying on the stand and hindering the investigation into her husband's murder.
Across the board, we believe that she lied to police and she lied on the stand.
She hid evidence and she concealed it. She remained silent. She didn't tell them that she was a willing participant with Hemi Newman in this relationship. The fact that she called Hemi and the fact that she texted Hemi, she hid from the police. She suspected him immediately, but she hid her suspicion.
Her husband wound up dead, not because of anything she did. She didn't hide it. She didn't conceal it. She didn't know about it in advance. She did not try to deny the relationship. She gave them his name, and she has cooperated time and time and time and time again.
Was there a concern that Hemi Newman might testify against her?
I kept thinking up to the day we were going to start trial that we would find out there's this new surprise witness, but that never happened.
I was hoping Hemi would point a finger at Andrea to lessen his sentence. He never considered that option. Hemi continued to express his love for her.
After 2 weeks of testimony and multiple witnesses,
Excuse me, Deputy Garrett, if you could bring in the jury, please.
the jury has a verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Andrea Snyderman, count 1, hindering the apprehension of a criminal, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty.
Ultimately, Andrea Snyderman is convicted of 9 out of 13 counts against her. Just 18 months after testifying at Hemi Newman's trial, Andrea Snyderman is right back in this courtroom, this time for her own sentencing. She tearfully denies ever having had an affair with her boss, asking the court for leniency.
Please let me go home to my kids. Mr. Newman changed my children's lives forever by killing their father. Please don't make them live without their mother. Thank you.
She blamed it on him and she was the victim. She's not a victim.
Self-preservation is the only thing on her mind. She lied to her family. She lied to her friends. She lied to us. It was more important for this criminal to protect herself rather than find and convict her husband's killer. We urge you to keep the results of her conduct that led her to lie in the forefront of your deliberations.
The judge gave her 5 years in prison, and she's out in 10 months.
With credit for time served both in jail and under house arrest, Snyderman is released on parole. And just when everyone thought the final chapter in the saga had been written, a new twist sees a very different looking Hemi Newman back in court. In 2015, nearly 5 years after Rusty Snyderman's murder, Hemi Newman's conviction is thrown out. The Georgia Supreme Court finding that there was a violation of attorney-client privilege related to some of Newman's mental health evaluations.
The prosecution had no right to subpoena experts that we hired that we did not intend to call as witnesses.
A DeKalb County judge set Hemi Newman's retrial.
This retrial is expected to last less than a month. Insanity is at the center of Newman's fate.
In court, the formerly clean-cut GE executive appears markedly different.
Hemi Newman became Orthodox. So when he showed up to court, he was donning the Orthodox beard, he was wearing a yarmulke.
Once again, Newman's defense is arguing that delusions drove him to kill Rusty Snyderman.
You will come to the right verdict, and that is that Hemi Newman is not guilty by reason of insanity.
The jury doesn't buy it, once again finding Newman guilty and sentencing him to life in prison without parole.
Hemi will never get out of prison. He's gonna live his life regretting his actions, regretting that he has no relationship with his own children, regretting that he lost everything.
As for Andrea Snyderman, she's out of prison and no longer has a criminal record, thanks to a Georgia law called the First Offender Act that focuses on nonviolent crimes.
Even though a jury has found her guilty, when a defendant is sentenced under the First Offender Act, as Andrea was, once you have completed the sentence, you have no record. Andrea Snyderman, wherever she is today, under Georgia law, is not a convicted criminal.
So she essentially is a woman who has a clean record.
Yes. Once you have served out your sentence, probation included, then your sins, your crimes are erased from the record. And she wasn't given special treatment. She just wasn't treated any worse than anyone else.
It was extremely tragic. There are crazy people out there, and Hemi Newman's one of them. And her path crossed with his, and she will regret it the rest of her life.
Rusty was a wonderful brother. He was a great father. Sophia and Ian adored their father, and they were the light of his life. Every single day of our lives, there will be a hole in our hearts, in our lives where Rusty should be.
The Snyderman family, they really just at the heart of all of it wanted this to be about Rusty and his life and his love for his kids. And I think that was the heartbreaking part of all of this, is that they were just wanting justice for Rusty.
In my dreams, he comes waltzing through the door, just like he always did.
We miss him.
Every day.
Was the light in our life.
He had so much more to offer the world. The world is so much poorer because he's not here.